meeting to order at 7 o'clock. If everybody would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Okay, that gets us to number 4, consideration of the town council's proposed 2021-2022 budget. Okay.
So I can start us off just before to kick us off. So hi, everybody. Mike Rosen, town manager. There's several aspects, obviously, to tonight's agenda. The first thing would be for council to discuss, the town manager's recommended budget that I've been presenting to you over the past 2 weeks, along with all the department heads and the superintendent of schools. Just wanted to remind everybody that the numbers that the town manager's budget had proposed were $12,655,147 for town government, $41,289,000 for the Board of Ed, $4,650,000 for debt service, and $167,946 for capital, and for a total of $58,473,382, which would require a mill rate of 37.31 to support, or a 1.26 mills increase, or a 3.5% mill rate increase. So just wanted to remind everybody that's the starting point, and now it's up to council to deliberate on if you'd like to go with those numbers or make any amendments to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess we'll just kind of do this open table, round table, raise your hand if you want to be recognized, and we can go about and talk about where we're at. And we've got 58 minutes to lock down. This is a combination of the capital budget and all of it together. So if you have anything you want to change or look at or review before the end of this meeting, before we come up to a number, now is the time to do it. So, does anybody have anything they want to start with? Nope.
Lou was first.
Was he? You're popping up first.
He's popping up first
Right,
on my screen, so I'm good with him going first.
Okay.
Right, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Jones, as well. I just had a question as far as if we have information regarding the Board of Education budget, as far as the increases over the past, I'd say the past like 10 years, as far as the budget increases, if that's something that we have available, or if not, I've got the figures, but I just wanted to verify some of the information.
I believe we've got something in the budget book that has the operational cost. It doesn't have it broken down by increases, but it has from 2009 through 2022, the budget amounts, if that will be helpful. Or are you looking at actual increases? Percentage?
No, I think, I'm sorry, I'll pull up here and see what I can find, and then I think that should be sufficient. So I'll pull that up. I'll take a look at it. So I'll hold off on anything else that I have from this point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Steve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Steve Jones. At this point, I'm very strongly in favor of moving forward with the town manager's proposed budget. Not making a motion, just I think if we're doing the roundtable discussion, I feel that he provided a very solid budget, one that I think he reasonably believes will pass at referendum, and I think maintains the town's sense of solvency without having to do a lot of extra legwork to make a lower number work. But I do respect and would be willing to consider whether or not the 3.19 for the Board of Ed should be added back in if there's discussion around that. The Board of Ed, I think, has been an ever fluid discussion, but it seems as though talking to a lot of Board of Ed members, they still stand by their vote, even with changing federal guidelines. So that's just where I stand at this point. But in terms of maybe seeking a compromise, I do support the town manager's proposed budget.
Thank you. Thank you for your input on that. Anybody else? Brenda?
Yes, Brenda Felucci. I fully support the proposed Board of Ed budget. Taking a look at the month's worth of meeting minutes and meetings, the work that the superintendent, his staff, and the Board of Ed did, I cannot in good conscience go below what they had proposed. Our school system is in the middle of a pandemic, and we need a proper response and recovery to it. And I think that their proposed budget is what's going to get us through this. I've also talked to a number of residents, and we've been getting lots of emails, plus the Board of Ed has gotten lots of emails in support of their budget. And I think we need to listen to them and go with the full proposed budget by the Board of Ed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want anything before I go? Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, just a few comments. I did have a chance to take a look at the information that was provided inside the budget book, and that in my decisions today, that what I'm basing upon are a lot of different things, including the discussions I've had with Dr. Willett, which again, I appreciate his openness, our very frank discussions regarding the budget, regarding the school and the needs for the schools, for the district, as well as going through all the emails that were provided by him regarding answering a number of questions that I had, as well as all the information provided by the Board of Education, by Dr. Willett on the FAQs and everything else. Had a chance to talk to Chief Lytle regarding his needs and the needs of the fire department, Department of Public Safety, as well as with Mr. Rosen and all the issues that are facing the town and the needs of the town. And I appreciate all the discussions, all the frank exchange had, because as everyone knows, a very blunt type of person, and I go right to the bottom line on any of the discussions. That being said, that that while I understand the significant work put in by Mr. Rosen, as well as Dr. Willett and the Board of Education, that at this point I cannot support the budget that's been put forward by Mr. Rosen. I know that there's a lot of issues and a lot of hard work that was put into it by all parties, but I think it's something that that with the increase that was put forward as part of this budget, that it's in excess of, I think, at close to like a 3.2, 3.3% increase on the overall town budget, which I just can't support at this point in time. I think there's a lot of other factors that we need to consider, including one that as far as for the Board of Education budget, any increases that we make at this on a yearly basis, that unlike other town departments, where if we increase a budget one year to address a certain need and then go back and that we can adjust it at a later point in time after that need's over with. For the Board of Education budget, we don't have that ability. Whatever amount we set for the budget for this year, that's a starting point for next year, and we can never go down below that amount. So that's a consideration I have, especially given the fact that that the town council has already set aside a COVID fund to address certain needs, which again is not restricted simply to the COVID fund or COVID related needs, but that's a discretionary fund that the town council can release money if it needs to assist on certain issues to the Board of Education. That the town also has a fund, has its savings fund, where if there's a specific need that we have within the town, that we can pull off that. Not that I want to, but it's something that if there's an emergency that's not covered by the normal town budget and that the department can't absorb, that fund is available. That also we have federal funds coming in related to COVID, to the COVID expenses, to the COVID response, a number of other different things by the bill that was just passed, the act that was just passed by the president. So I think that's something that we need to consider, that there are other funds available to offset some accounts, offset some expenses. That I think that also we need to take a better look at along the lines of long-term planning on both the Board of Education as well as the town. I know that we're doing as much as we can to try and anticipate certain things and put it inside the capital spending, but that I think it's something that we need to look even on a long-term on just normal expenses, planning it out a little bit more, taking a look at things so that we don't have expenses for replacement of certain things all in one year, that we could stagger it out over a period of time. And that the biggest concern is that looking historically over the past 10 years, any budget that has gone over 3% has never made it through referendum on the first try. And that every time that we've had a budget over 3%, it's gone back. In fact, with about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, we actually had a budget go back 4 times to referendum, where the average budget that was ended up passing by referendum is usually in the neighborhood of 2.5 to 2.6. That with that in mind, I think that's something that we need to be cognizant of, because what we don't want is to have a budget, put forward a budget, not have it pass referendum, and then have to go at this, start all over again with this whole process, which delays the funding being granted to some of these departments even further. So I think that's something that we need to be very cognizant about. I think that it's something that the town has repeatedly spoken time and time and time again over the past 15 years, that they will not approve a budget over 3%. And that this budget, as it's presented right now, is over that 3%. So I would like for us to work hard to come up with a budget that is under that 3%, so that we can put it forward in good faith to the town, showing that we've done our due diligence. Again, the Board of Education's done its due diligence, worked hard on it. Mr. Rosen's worked hard on the town budget. As the town council, we need to take a look at it to see if we feel that this is something that we can support and that the town will moreover will support. That's my comments. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Kurt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just a quick clarifying, should we hold any comments or questions about the firehouse project until the next meeting?
Yes, please.
Okay, that's fine. And I guess my second question would have to be regarding the capital budget. I know when we talked with Public Works, we had talked about moving 2 of the lawnmowers into next year's capital budget, so we don't have to keep buying all new mowers every time at one shot. And I would still like to make sure that's the way we're going. Mike, forgive me if that was in your original plan. I don't exactly remember.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I know Scott's in the audience. We had in this capital budget, there are 4 mowers for next year. It's about $55,000. So each one of them is approximately $14,000. They're all being replaced next year through borrowing. They're not being paid for by cash. And I've sort of anticipated this. Lisa and I have spoken that if there are funds left over in June, we would be willing to buy 1 or 2 out of this year's money, just to not have to have all 4 of them impact the capital next year. But we can't give you that guarantee tonight because we don't know where we're going to end the year at. But we are considering doing something like that, so not all 4 of them are hitting at the same time.
Understand. Thank you.
John?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So from my perspective, the last year has been defined by the pandemic. We all had a lot of struggles, and everybody has suffered to a certain degree with the pandemic. And the way I feel about it is we're starting to come out of it. People are getting vaccinated. Things are starting to get back to normal, but we're not out of it yet. I think it's going to be a little bit before we're out of it yet. So from my perspective, I still think there are people struggling out there. And as Mr. Luba alluded to, there's federal assistance available for people and for districts and towns. So I would like to take that into consideration and see if we can sharpen our pencils a little bit and see if we can drive this budget down below 3%. That's where I would be comfortable. And then finally, I really feel like I owe it to the people who voted for me over the last 2 elections, because I wasn't elected to pass a budget which would be one of the highest that we've passed in years. So that's where I stand. I'd like to see if we can get it under that 3% mark.
Thank you. All right, everybody has had a chance to speak. Cassandra, do you want to say anything or no? You're good?
Sorry, I couldn't find my mute button. I agree with what John says, Lou says, and like Kurt's points about the mowers. But yeah, I do believe that we should try to stay below a 3% increase based on the past referendums.
Okay. I'll go with you guys and then I will go after you. Brenda?
Thank you. We keep talking about the federal funds that were just recently approved. Do we have any indication about, Mike, what those would be? How they are being required to be spent? And if they're only for COVID related items, are they for responding to COVID or recovery to COVID? To take those into consideration for this budget when we don't know, I don't know what the amount is. I don't know what we would be allowed to use that money towards. It's very hard to be able to tell those people who are most vulnerable, those people who are in the schools, our students, that they're going to need to deal with cuts to services when we don't, if we can't provide, we just need to provide for these people who are getting their services cut. To pit a mill rate against needed services is terrible in my book. It's not doing justice to our community. It's hurting the most vulnerable populations. So if you could talk any to those federal funds that may or may not be coming, I'd appreciate that.
Sure, Brenda. The only thing the answer is that we have not budgeted to use the American Rescue Plan in next year's budget, only because it's not tangible yet. We haven't gotten any official word that, and I believe Dr. Willett probably is budgeting the same way. He and I have spoken about these funds and what they could mean for us and what they could be used for, but guidance has changed several times already, and nothing has been finalized yet. I know today FEMA sent an email around about it, but it had to do with the overall funds, the overall $1.9 trillion plan. It doesn't specifically narrow it down to Tolland. I have seen numbers for Tolland, although they've also fluctuated since this is, last couple of months or even weeks, I should say. So we haven't programmed those dollars into any actual budget at the moment. Budgeting conservatively as well. We want to make sure we have a funding source for these type of things. So that's why, in the town side budget, things like cleanings, the overtime costs and everything, that's still in there as a town expense. We haven't siphoned it out yet as its own category, but we are certainly, if that does materialize, we will absolutely program those expenditures to that money when it becomes more real for me and for Dr. Willett. But I think there's also two different tranches. Actually, there's two different tranches, and then also the schools get different money than the town does too. So I don't know the nuances of what's eligible for each side, but I do believe they are specific to COVID and to also revenue replenishment on the town side.
Yeah, on the town side, it's revenue it's all of that, yeah.
So again, I just want to point out, I do not feel comfortable at all taking a look at historically what the town has voted for a budget and pitting a mill rate against the needs of our most vulnerable populations. We need to we need to provide services to our residents. Those services have been shrinking, and the ask for all of our town staff has been increasing each and every year that we haven't been fully fulfilling the needs of our town. So I'm not going to vote for anything that is below what the Board of Ed has requested and what's on the Board of Ed side and what the town manager has approved on the municipal side and for capital and debt services. Thank you.
Thank you. Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Ms. Felucci's point, I think we're providing for the needs for our most vulnerable. I think that the town has that Rosen and Dr. Willett have both said that we are providing those needs. That can we do better? We can always do better. Every town can always do better, but that we are providing for the needs, and we're providing, I believe, exceptional services to both our students as well as to our town residents. That things that I would like to also point out is that at this point, that that based upon the Board of Education projected budget, that there's still $1 million that is available for any type of need, for any type of pre-purchasing, or for anything else that is available that we may be looking for next year. That I'll also like to point out that we did set aside money out of that for a COVID fund, but it's something that the town council can appoint and can use for other things. We did not set specific restrictions. We just said so long as it's something that is tangentially related, that we can go forward with that fund and provide that. If the Board of Education needs it, there's approximately $1.2 million that's available. And even at that point, even if we don't take into account the $1 million still left inside the Board of Education budget, there's still $200,000 or more than that set aside by the town council can be used that would offset anything else, any other additional cuts that we may have. That lastly, with regard to the town budget, that we've taken a look at it, that Mr. Rosen's put together a solid budget, but there's always room that for some expenses to take a look and see where we could streamline operations, and that we could make sure that we're operating the most efficiently. And that, again, that we have enough savings available where if there is a significant need for something that was not included inside the budget, again, the town council can appropriate certain funds that would be able to offset it. That we did this last year by using $600,000 offset any type of tax increase or any type of a mill rate increase. So that's something that we have those funds available if needed. The last thing I'd like to point out is that for people that are in need, that I'd still like to point out that based upon the Department of Labor statistics coming out just this week, that there's still twice the number of unemployment within the town of Tolland as there was last year. That we are still, even though that we are in the end of, or hopefully the end of a pandemic, and that we're on a road to recovery, we still have twice as many people in the town of Tolland that are unemployed, that may not be able to afford even those minimal increase because of unemployment. So that's something else that I'd like to point out that we need to consider. We need to consider these people because they are also our residents in need, and they may not be able to afford even a minimal $40 a month increase. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Steve?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, but Mr. Luba misrepresented quite a few bits of
But
information
Brenda,
there.
I'm not recognizing you right now. I'm recognizing Steve. You can raise your hand after him if you'd like. Steve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one point of clarification, and I know Town Manager Rosen wasn't the manager last in 2019, but I believe we did have a budget pass at 3%. I think that's what was promoted in the presentation by then Chairman Eccles. Just as a point of clarification in terms of having things over 3% or at 3%. This is the second point in terms of just supporting the town manager's budget is year over year, we didn't pass a mill rate increase last year. So we should truly consider what we are presenting is over the course of 2 years, trying to recover and recoup and reclaim what we tried to do for those that were in need last year. So, you know, just thinking of the math, if it's 3.5%, it's really it's 1.75% over the 2-year period that we're proposing for a budget that provides both short-term and long-term impacts. And sorry, just a third question, and I apologize if I'm putting them on the spot, but I'm wondering if Dr. Willett is able to provide any input in terms of if the budget is further decreased from, you know, I guess at this point, the town manager's proposal is 2.46. If it goes further down by, you know, whatever is needed to get to a 3 or whatever ends up being the final number, if it's $100,000 or $200,000 on top of what's already been cut, what sort of impacts do you expect, and does it structurally change how you're planning certain staffing and programs?
Dr. Willett, do you want to answer that? And we've got 25 minutes left. So
35.
I'm not saying anything,
Okay.
Dr.
So
Willett.
keep
I'm
it
just
short,
saying.
will it? Keep it short. I get it. I mean,
I'm just
okay,
saying, you know.
I mean, I guess I would just use the short time here, less than a minute, to caution that, we are receiving, obviously, the funds, ESSER 2, ESSER 3, things like that. But it's kind of like if somebody gives you $100, you feel happy. But if they tell you have to drive 1,000 miles on $100, you start to get the picture of, like, these things come with strings. So just keep in mind that it's a 3 or 4 year kind of thing that we're looking at for the ARP, the Rescue Plan Act, that type of thing. I just wouldn't, I just caution saying that that's something we could use to offset everything, because it's going to cover additional costs going out 3 or 4 years. So just keep that in mind. But obviously, I understand that the council's, got a tough thing to do here. I think the board has worked hard to put a 319 together. I think that's in due diligence. And I understand at this point, it's the council's burden to decide how it wants to move forward with that. I can't really comment too much on what would be reduced unless I know exactly where the reduction line is set. So, everything has an impact, but I respect the process you're going through, as I know the board does. And again, of course, we would hope for the 319, but we listen eagerly to understand where you land tonight. And, I think that's the most I can say about it right now.
No, thank you, Dr. Willett. And actually, sorry, Chairman Nucci, I just have one other question for Town Manager Rosen. Ideally, we like budgets passed on the first go around, but do we budget for two referendums in case the first, or we on average, budget
Yes.
for two? Okay.
Correct. I believe we budget for 2, and I think roughly they're about, Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, they're about $6,000 each. Yep, she's shaking her head. $6,000 each.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Brenda?
Thank you. Mr. Jones asked a couple of my questions, but we do have limits on some of those buckets of money that we have, that we do have restrictions on what can be spent. For example, like the 1% fund, we had created some restrictions on where the money could be spent. So, while I appreciate that there's a feeling there's money all over the place that we could be using, that is not at all what's happening. Otherwise, those would have been put in our budget. We would have been able to use them. I'm just going to leave it at that. I know that there's no changing minds here. I can see where this is going. So, I do also recognize the unprecedented way that our town staff performs their duties. They go above and beyond. They sacrifice their personal time, their weekends, their family time, and their vacations in order to provide the exceptional attention to this town, to our residents. And I think it's about time that we stopped expecting our town staff to always step up and pick up the slack and tighten the belt and sharpen their pencils. We need to meet them and start providing the fiscal means for this town to address all the services that need to be made. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so thinking about this, I've had a lot of conversations. Obviously, I've had conversations with the people on my side. I've had a conversation with the vice chair. I've talked to Mr. Rosen. I've talked to Dr. Willett. Looked at quite a few different options and scenarios, and looked at the information that Mr. Rosen provided regarding all the mill rates and the past and everything. I also have looked at the unemployment, talked to countless people in town on all different avenues, some support, some don't support, just the overarching feeling. And I respect all the work that went into the budget. I understand what a budget document is. I do it for a living, so I understand what a budget is built on, and I understand the revenue side of it. So in all of the review that I've done, the review that I've gone over with other people, questions that we've asked in the meetings and that, I too, I would like to see this budget right underneath 3%. If we can get it as close to around that number as possible. And it's not an arbitrary pick. Again, I've gone through, looked at where I thought we had money in the budget that, you know, we haven't typically spent in those areas, looking at dollars that are left at the end of the year and all kinds of analysis and that. And I think, you know, I'm comfortable with us going out with about, you know, a 2.95 if we can. I think that's something that I can get people on one side come to, and I can explain well enough to people on the other side to try to get them to see where the reasoning is coming from also. Overall, like I said, in conversations that I've had with everybody, I think I don't want to say the expectation is there. I think that everybody understands, as Dr. Willett said, what we're trying to do and how we're trying to get there. And then from the perspective of the capital side of this, I know we had a few questions in the capital meetings. We talked about, you know, the lawnmowers and staggering that, so we're not buying 4 at one point. As you mentioned, Mike, you know, talking about if there's money left at the end of the year, possibly buying a couple now and then putting the other ones out there just so we can stagger that expense, so we're not seeing that that hit every so many years to replace them all at the same time. Break that up a little bit. We're going to have the call about the fire station after this, but that's also in our capital budget. I have numbers to get to the 2.95 if that is useful to anybody, or if you want me to kind of tell you how I got there. But I think overall, at least from the majority side of the town council, that's where we're comfortable with the number. Definitely not comfortable at the 3.5. I think it's far too big of an ask, especially when we know that there are going to be dollars coming from the federal level. The numbers have stabilized over the last couple of weeks. And I think we know pretty much what the town's going to be getting on both the school side and the municipal side. And we've seen all the preliminary language that really hasn't changed on what it can be used for. So I think we would be kind of doing a disservice to the town by not utilizing the money that we're getting from the federal government in the best way possible. I think we'll still be able to achieve everything that this budget wants with a 2.95, or at this what this budget needs with a 2.95, and then utilizing the money from the federal government to help offset some increases. And also, if there's money left at the end of the year on the school side, I would definitely be in favor of looking at putting some of that back into a COVID fund to be used to offset some expenses for next year. And then on the town side, also, if there's money left there, looking at what we can do to either buy the lawnmowers, you know, put some money forward, try to do some stuff to alleviate pressure from the budget. So that's where I stand right now. I'm at about a 2.95. And for me, that would be about a 2% increase on the Board of Ed side. And I think it's about a 1.6% increase on the town side. And I'd be leaving the other stuff alone, but I think there's some wiggle room in there if we wanted to move off some of the capital rather than taking it from the general government side to try to do some maneuvering there. If we can pay for some of the stuff that's on the capital side instead of having it come out of the budget instead. Either way, I think through all my review on the town side stuff, I think we can get to that with and still keep the new position of the grant writer and the money for the library. I think we're good. And I have had conversations with Dr. Willett, and he has been very understanding and forthcoming with, you know, the 2% increase. And I'm fairly confident that I think that the school will get pretty much everything that it needs, or pretty close to, with that, and with utilizing the money left at the end of the year, and hopefully creating another savings for COVID going into the next school year. That's where I am. I don't know if anybody wants to have any other conversation back and forth on that. No? All right. Brenda?
So I'm sorry. You've taken a look at what our town staff, our professionals have come up with and decided what the town needs and decided that there was more cuts to be made and that we can do something, we can achieve all their needs with less support for them. I'd love to see, before I can vote on this, I would need to see a breakdown of what you feel could be cut from this budget and how that would impact the services to our town and if it would negatively impact our response and recovery to this pandemic.
If you want to sit down with me and go over it at some point, we can, but yep, I did. I looked at it.
You offered to
Excuse
put it
me, I
up
think
to
I'm
the-
speaking. I looked
You
at it.
interrupt me
Excuse
all the time.
Excuse me. Yes, I did, in my professional opinion, looked through it, looked at the numbers, looked at all the different contingencies, the actual trend over the last few years, where there were dollars that weren't spent. I asked questions, I looked at it, and I think it's fair to say that there's money in there that we can remove. And if something comes up, there's an opportunity for the town to come if there's an emergent issue and ask for that rather than building in contingency that I don't feel is fair to ask for town residents to pay for without a direct need. So yes, I am confident in my number and I feel fine that I think we will be able to provide for the needs of the town at a 2.95% increase.
So you did offer to show us, so would you be able to show us?
Sure. I will send it to you.
No, I think that we need to see this if we're going to vote on this. You're asking.
You already said you're set anyway.
Excuse me. We saw everybody else's line by line budget. If you have some cuts you'd like to make, I'd like to see what services are being impacted before I can make an informed decision on a budget. I think that's just the fair thing to do. Plus, there's also other people on this phone call or on this Zoom call that would like to see this information also.
Sure. Let's see.
I mean,
on the town side, here you go. Here's what I originally thought. Here are my notes after multiple pages of notes with people. Here's what I got post meeting. That right there is $50,000 of cuts that do not impact a single service. There are dollars in here that have not been historically spent based on actuals and looking at the last 3-year trend. There's also adding in some things that I thought might add in, but after my conversations decided, nope, that's fair to come out. I looked at the contingencies across the board. I looked at the opportunity to get somebody in and with COVID funds and reductions in overtime. And I looked at all the other contingency. So yes.
I don't see where, like, what is that $1,000 from town council? What is the 22?
For that, you're gonna have to look at your budget book. You can look at your budget book.
You're asking us to vote on, again, you're asking us to vote on something.
No, Brenda, I am asking you to
reductions
vote what you want to
without-
vote based on the meetings that we had, the questions that you asked. This is my reasoning for how I am voting. I'm not asking you to vote on my budget, yes or no. I'm asking you to vote how you want. And this is my opinion based off of my review, my professional review, looking at a budget and coming up with what I think is logical. You don't have to like what I put forward, Brenda. You don't. You can vote your conscience on this. I'm voting.
Point of order,
based on my
I
expertise.
find it pretty offensive, the tone of voice that you're using
You always
right now.
find the tone of my voice offensive, Brenda, whenever I don't agree with you. So that I don't take that as like, you don't like it, I'm sorry. This
I'm
is
just
my
saying, you
profession.
offered to show us so that we can come to an informed decision. You offered to discuss with us so that we could understand. I'm giving you the opportunity to do that. And you
In
showed
20
us-
minutes, I can't go over a 380-page document, Brenda, that we have gone over in multiple meetings. And I have asked
Right.
the same questions in multiple meetings. So you can look at the minutes for what I asked. You were at the meetings that I was at. So I'm not going to go line by line through a 300 and something page budget to justify my decision.
Duly noted. Thank
You're very welcome. Well, Mike. You don't have to raise your hand.
Hi, sorry, actually, I just wanted to respectfully ask that if we do reduce the town side, if you could just give us the number and let us try to figure out how to do it on, it would, I appreciate the line by line that the chairperson did, but it would be good for me to
Right.
go back to the department heads and talk about it. So we would be far more comfortable if you can give us a final number and let
And
us back into it, please.
I agree. And I wouldn't ask you guys to go off of my analysis. That is my analysis for how I got to the number that I am at, where I am comfortable with the number that I am at. So I am not in any way, shape, or form saying you guys should take that and then make your adjustments. That would be ridiculous. That's not my intent. But to answer the question, to show that this wasn't an arbitrary number pulled out of the air to satisfy something, that is what I showed. Lou.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And that was my going to be my point exactly, is where that in looking at the budget, that we may see some areas that may be able to be cut, but that's our assessment. That we set that based upon that assessment, we set the number. How Mr. Rosen and Dr. Willett spend it, that's within their purview, based upon their discussions with their department heads and with their staff. So that I think to Ms. Falusi's point, that we've identified issues that we can that we feel can be cut, but it's ultimately up to the department heads, up to Mr. Rosen, up to Dr. Willett, how they do that. But these are the issues that I believe that you've properly identified, that we've taken a look at as well, and how they decide to do that is up to them, and that's how it should be left up to them. But that's how we determine that number. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I was just going to clarify, and I think it's been reiterated enough that whatever is passed, if it's lower than what the town manager requested, they kind of have the ultimate say of how they're going to go through that process. I guess maybe the one request would be, and I'm sure they'll do it, but if the budget passes at referendum, perhaps getting a summary at a future meeting of what was done in order to reach that versus what was proposed would be appreciated. At least from the town side, if the Board of Ed's able to do something similar, that's also appreciated, but I can ask that to leadership on the Board of Ed or to the Board of Ed as a whole. So thank you.
Yeah, they usually do an amended budget, and Mike would too. So, we'll be able to look at it and see, because ultimately it's up to Mike and the Board of Ed to decide what to do with the money once it is assigned by the town council. We don't say area by area, this is what you should do. So it's up to them to decide where it comes from.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess, where are we then?
So on the agenda tonight, we have two draft resolutions, but we'll have to amend them since the numbers are going to be, it sounds like they're going to be different. So Lisa and I will need to run some numbers, some figures. If you could walk us through, I jotted down that you said 2% on the Board of Ed and 1.6 on the town. Could you
Yep.
verify that for us so we can start running the numbers, please?
Yeah, now the only thing is Mike, I'm not sure if you and Lisa want to play with the town side with the capital to see if there's some moving. So I can give you a dollar amount that would get to the 1.6. And then if you want to, however you guys want to allocate that amount, Lisa was shaking her head. So I think you know what I'm trying to say, right?
Well, sorry, maybe we should just check in with Lisa then, but my understanding with the mowers was that they are bonded so that they wouldn't impact the
No, they wouldn't
166.
impact capital.
Right. So I'm sorry, Lisa, go ahead. If you wanted to, sorry.
Yeah. She's got to find her mute button.
Sorry, had to find the mute button. I mean, depending on where you're going, I mean, I think I have an idea that you're probably around, I'm guessing $80,000.
Yeah.
So if you are, I'd like to see 30,000 out of capital, because we have an opportunity there if we needed to with, Mike, are you okay with me sharing my ideas?
Well, if it has to do with that settlement, I mean, that'll be on the next agenda. So,
Okay, well, with the WPCA, we had planned on phasing in some money this year because the first payment we didn't have to pay. So even though we had budgeted for it, it sat in the account. And then what we did, we were phasing it in so it wouldn't hit the taxpayers as hard as time went by. So next year, we did have a plan to phase in some money, and then the year after, $30,000. My thoughts is that we just go ahead and use the $30,000 for the WPCA budget, cut the general fund portion that is put into capital by 30,000. And then either in the next year, we look at if there's settlement money that we should happen to get or other alternative funding, we look at it at that point and, phase in again the impact on the taxpayers. So if anything, I'd say, 30,000 off the capital for that purpose by using that to making it still work. And then the rest, I guess, would have to be out of the general fund budgets, which the manager can certainly
sure.
Work on where he'd want to cut it.
Thank you, Lisa. So we would take the town government proposed number, reduce that by 50,000, and the capital 167,946, reduce that by 30,000 to get that 80,000 on the town side.
Yeah. I think that's about it, Lisa. We were looking at, to get to the 2.95, it would be 1.6. Well, it would be $80,000 on the general government side and 170 on the Board of Ed side. That would get them down to a 2% increase. And that would
Actually, excuse me, if you wanted a straight 2% increase on the board side, it would be about 181,000 to get 2%.
Okay,
For my spreadsheet.
that's fine. As long as if you got that number, that's fine. Yeah, to get us, does that get us to 295 or
I have
around
a
there?
Scenario here. You also were talking about adding 2,500 back to the library.
Yes.
So, I mean, I've been playing with my numbers here and I have a scenario if that's where you're ending up.
Okay.
I mean, I'll let everyone do their thing, but if you need me to calculate something, you just let me know.
No, I think you probably have numbers better than mine. So 2% on the Board of Ed, and then the 80,000 from the general government. And then if that gets us to the 2.95-ish.
It's about, with the 2,500 added back in also, it's 2.94 with a 1.06 mills increase. And the mill would be about 37.11.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm good with that. And
Lisa,
that
can I- I'm
gets
sorry,
the
can I-
Board of Ed 2%, correct?
What was that?
That gets the Board of Ed 2%, correct?
The Board of Ed would be at 2%. Sorry, my dog just is behind me. Board of Ed would be at 2%. The town operating budget would be 1.9. And the capital would be a minus 28.36%. And debt would be 1.09%. With a
Okay,
total overall budget increase of, spending increase of 1.81%.
all right. Does anybody else have any other suggestions that they would like to put forward to talk about? Lou?
Yeah, so I just want to verify that the 2% that we're talking for the Board of Education, that's higher than been in the past several years. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Right.
So I know we're running a bit out of time, everybody, but agenda item number 5 for this meeting, we do have to go on the chart there and talk about what the numbers are for each category. So this will give us an opportunity to verify our numbers before,
Okay.
yeah, but we need to know that council obviously agrees to this before we, we need to probably
Right.
a vote. We need a
Okay.
motion and a vote on this.
All right, so let's, then I need Steve, do you want to make the,
Well, I
The
think
rest-
we would probably have to provide you the numbers first, and then
Okay.
that way we can, yeah.
do you,
Maybe can you do a straw poll first, just so that we know, or is that, I don't know if that's appropriate, Lisa, just so that we know where we are before.
well, I can't make a motion, right? So, so we need a motion to go for 2.95.
I thought it was 294. 2.9, that's the numbers that Lisa provided.
I could provide you with the numbers, and if you guys want to discuss it or whatever, I can share the numbers that I have right now.
Maybe share the numbers before they make the motion, just so that
Okay.
everyone's on the same page.
We
Right.
would be at the town operating budget. Does someone have a pen and paper?
Yes,
Well, I do, but I can't make the motion, so,
No, but whoever's.
we're just
gonna
sharing.
yeah.
Decide or whatever.
You know what? Actually, I can say I'll accept a motion, so go ahead. What's the numbers?
12,607,647 is the town operating budget. That's a 1.9% increase. Education operating budget is 40,819,289. And that is a 2% increase.
Mhm.
Debt service is 4,650,000. And that's a 1.09% increase. Capital improvements, 137,946. That is a 28.36 reduction percent increase.
Mhm.
The total budget would be 58,214,882. And it would be a 1.81% overall spending increase. Let me just double check and make sure my mill rate thing is calculating correctly. Yep. Okay. The mill rate would be 37.11, which is a 1.06 mil increase or 2.94%.
Okay,
Thank you, Lisa.
all right. Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Then I would, at this point, would move to adopt the budget as set forth by Ms. Hancock in the summary that she just presented.
This is Kurt Schneider. I'll second that motion.
Okay, any discussion? Steve?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to just also clarify that the motion in the packet has a further resolved section as well that talks about the public meeting on April
Be it further
April
resolved?
19th. Yeah, so the motion should capture both halves of it, please.
Right, then, Madam Chair, I'll amend my my original motion to also include setting of the hearing and as set forth in, I believe it was in section 5, Mr. Rosen.
Yeah, it's the annual budget presentation meeting, April 19th. That's also part of this overall motion.
Okay,
Do you
then
have the
I would amend that to amend my motion, include the April 19th meeting. Thank
Well,
you.
actually, first you have to withdraw your motion.
Okay, then I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay,
I'll renew my motion to adopt the budget as set forth by Ms. Hancock, and also part 2 of that is to set it down for a meeting on April 19th.
public hearing on April 19th at 7.
Public hearing on April 19th. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Public meeting.
Yeah.
Public meeting.
This is Kurt Schneider. I will again make the second.
Okay, any discussion? Steve?
No worries, I can be patient. So I just want to say ultimately, I can't support this budget as proposed, I would have rather gone ahead with the town manager's proposed to go to the public at referendum and see where it stood. That being said, when it comes to May, I think May 4th is the date that the referendum will be held. I will vote in favor of the budget, knowing that, if it doesn't pass, I have high concerns that it will continue to be cut and that will impact hiring prospects and long-term planning for both the Board of Education and the town council. So I just wanted to vocalize my vote before I formally say no later on in the vote.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that.
And sorry, just one other thing to add is that I will more than willing work bipartisan with any council member if they want to advocate for this budget. I'll still go out there with them and go to task on social media and social circles and say, this is why we need to vote yes on this. But just from this particular vote, I can't support it and would have rather seen the town manager's budget go forward.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate the discourse. Brenda?
Yes, Brenda Flusy, I'm also going on record as saying I can't support this budget. I think it does a disservice to the most vulnerable in our community. I think that it just means that our school is going to have a harder time recovering from this pandemic. Some school children have at least 9 more months before they can be vaccinated. And that's going to be our youngest populations. So this is a very long process. We're nowhere near completing. And to not provide the town with the needed revenue, to the revenue it needs to be able to address our services is just unconscionable to me. So I am sorry to everybody who is being negatively impacted by this budget. And I appreciate everybody who's reached out to me. And thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, all those in favor, Brenda,
No,
Cassandra,
Yes.
Steve,
Okay.
John,
Aye.
Lou,
Aye.
Kurt,
Aye.
I am an aye, so that passes 5-2, Lisa. And then there's a second resolution.
Correct. This is the mechanics of the referendum. So we will fill in the blanks based on the numbers that Lisa provided. So if we do need to read the whole thing into the record and go through all the blanks.
Okay, Steve, do you have the numbers to go through the blanks?
I believe I do. Just Lisa, if you want to correct me if I misstate any of them. But so Steve Jones, I'll make a motion that whereas the Tolland Town Council has adopted a proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 town operating and capital budget to be considered by the Tolland electorate at a May 4th, 2021 budget referendum, and whereas the town council must now establish appropriate ballot language for this referendum and the date, time, and place of said referendum, now therefore be it resolved by the Tolland Town Council the following. The ballot question for the May 4th referendum shall be worded as follows. Shall the town of Tolland's proposed 2021-2022 budget of, I believe, $58,214,882, reflecting a spending increase of
1.81%
of 1.81%,
Yep.
for which requires a tax rate of 37.11 mils for an increase, or for an increase of, sorry, and I need the clarification on the total, 1.06 mils.
Yes.
Be adopted, yes or no. 2, the time or place for the referendum shall be between the hours of 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. on May 4th, 2021 at the, and I assume it would be the rec center and
Yes, I did speak with Director Watt about that today. I just need to have one final conversation with registrar of voters, but I'm like 95% sure that that's going to be the recreation building and not the senior center.
Okay, so solely the recreation center. We won't be using
Correct.
two places.
It's one polling location for referendum.
Okay, so at the recreation center. 3, the town manager or his designee is hereby authorized to place the required legal notices in the Journal Enquirer and other places as conditions permit, advertising the May 4th, 2021 budget referendum and the April 19th, 2021 remote annual budget presentation meeting. And 4, the town manager or his designee is authorized to prepare and print an explanatory text and the mailing of the same to local residents to be included with absentee ballots and documented via the town of Tolland's notification system in accordance with the provisions of Connecticut General Statutes 9-369B explaining the budget referendum question approved by the Tolland Town Council on March 23rd, 2021.
Do I have a second?
This
Lou,
Kurt,
second.
Whoever.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Brenda?
This is just for setting the referendum date. It is not
Okay.
actually.
And
for
the ballot, that's the ballot, yeah.
Aye.
Cassandra?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
Kurt?
Aye.
I am an aye, so that passes unanimously.
All right, Madam Chair, sorry to interject, but since we're running over a minute late, I'd make a motion to adjourn at 7:01 p.m.
Absolutely. Do I have a second?
Kurt Schneider, I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Brenda?
Aye.
Cassandra?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Kurt?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Thank you. Go over to the next link, people. Okay. Invite everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't see Mike yet.
I'm here. I'm just letting people in.
Are you? Oh, sorry. I didn't even see it. Okay. Once you're here, do we have everybody in, Mike? What do we have?
It's an avalanche here. 50 people just joined at once, so I'm trying to keep track.
52 on the
Yeah.
participants thing there. So you think we're good to start?
We have at least 5. I see 5,
I think I've got all the counselors.
6. Yeah.
That I have everybody here. All right, perfect. I'd like to call to order this town council meeting of March 23rd, 2021, 7 p.m. If everybody could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, proclamations and presentations. We have quite a few tonight. Mike, do you want me to pull them up or do you want to pull them up?
Yes. Why don't you? I just made you co-host. Do you have the packet in front of you on your
I
computer?
do, yes.
Okay. Yeah. We have three tonight.
Yes. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep, all good.
Yes. Yes.
All right, I need to move this thing here. It's going to keep popping up so you see it. Hold on. All right, so tonight we have a proclamation for Disability Awareness Month. Whereas the 28th year, the United States has recognized and celebrated March as National Disabilities Awareness Month. And on February 26, 1987, President Ronald Reagan officially declared Proclamation 5613, making March National Disabilities Awareness Month. The proclamation called for people to provide understanding, encouragement, and opportunities to help persons with disabilities to lead productive and fulfilling lives. And everyone wants and deserves to enjoy life, feel productive and secure. But in March, we take extra steps to raise awareness about the supports and rights of the people with disabilities and to celebrate their contributions to our community and society as a whole. Whereas all individuals, agencies, and organizations supportive of people with disabilities are encouraged to observe the month of March with appropriate observances and activities directed toward increasing public awareness of the contributions and the potential of Americans with disabilities. Now, therefore, I, Tammy Nuccio, Chair of the Tolland Town Council, on behalf of the Town Council and community at large, recognize March as Disabilities Awareness Month and embrace the contribution of all Tolland's residents
Make
who
it
live
look
with
like this
disabilities.
one above. Make it look like
I
that
think
one.
somebody needs to be muted.
Okay.
Let's see. Do you have it, Mike?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
all set.
Okay. So this one we'll sign and have available online for everybody, and we can post it. The next one, the next two really, but the next one here is a proclamation recognizing the members of the Tolland Resident State Troopers Office, Connecticut State Troopers, Troop C, and Tolland Public Safety regarding the attempted burglaries on February 20th, 2021 on Tolland Green. And I'm not sure I see Lieutenant Hudson. I don't know if Officer Hoyt is on. I don't know. There's 62 people now. I'm losing everybody. I have reached out and talked to Lieutenant Palmer at Troop C, and after this one is signed, I will be bringing it down and presenting it down at the troop. I'm trying to see who we have on here that may be from Troop C or from Tolland Public Safety. I see John. Mike, do you see anybody else from the police that we can recognize specifically?
Well, don't forget that this is, so tonight it's on the agenda just to, kind of finalize the wording. So there's still opportunity to present this more formally. When we have these on the agenda the second time, it's just to make sure the wording is good. They're not signed yet. They're not final until this step is taken. So normally we wouldn't have the person necessarily here.
Here? All right, we're reading them, but so people will know they're there, but okay. So this next one here, let me share my screen again. And before I do, I'm just going to say the third one is proclamation honoring a resident regarding the attempted burglaries on February 20th, 2021 on Tolland Green also. So we'll do both of them. We'll go through both of them. Let me just share my screen again. Is that good? Can everybody see it?
Yes,
Okay.
you can see lots of the whole screen.
All right, I gotta keep moving this thingy because it gets in the way. Tolland Proclamation. On February 20th, 2021, members of the Tolland Resident State Troopers Office, Connecticut State Troopers, Troop C, and Tolland Public Safety answered the call to protect the residents of Tolland, responding to reports of attempted car thefts and home invasion involving armed suspects in the area of Cosley Road and Williams Way in the town of Tolland. And while attempting to evade apprehension by law enforcement, the suspects led troopers on a high-speed pursuit down Old Stafford Road into the area of the Tolland Town Green. And in order to prevent the suspects from continuing the high-speed chase through Tolland and potentially harming others, Trooper Kevin Hoyt willfully placed his cruiser in the path of the fleeing vehicle, which was struck at a high rate of speed, resulting in personal injury to Trooper Hoyt. And after colliding with Trooper Hoyt's cruiser, the suspects fled on foot into the surrounding woods and neighborhood. Whereupon Connecticut State Police, assisted by the Tolland Fire Department and Tolland Fire Police, quickly set up a perimeter while members of the Connecticut State Police began a harrowing search for the suspects. And Trooper oh boy, I'm gonna mess this one up. Caliber, accompanied by his K9 Drago, located and apprehended two suspects, one of whom discarded a loaded firearm while being pursued by Trooper Calbearer and Drago, and other members of the Connecticut State Police and Town Resident State Troopers Office apprehended the remaining suspects in a shed a short distance away from the scene of the crash. And through their responsive and coordinated action, the members of Connecticut State Police successfully apprehended all suspects, quickly ending the continuing criminal activity and preventing any potential harm to the residents of Tolland. The Town of Tolland Town Council hereby recognizes Trooper Kevin Hoyt, Trooper Kyle Caliber, and CSP K9 Drago, Connecticut State Police Troop C, and Tolland Resident State Troopers Office, Tolland Fire Department, and Fire Police. Now, therefore, I, Tammy Nuccio, Chair of the Tolland Town Council, on behalf of the Town Council and community at large, recognize the troopers and public safety for their heroic actions, and am proud for their honorable and unwavering service in protecting and serving the residents of the town of Tolland. Anybody have anything on that one? Other than I really need to say trooper's name correctly? I know I'm not.
The trooper's name is Calbera.
Calbera. That's why I knew there was a bear in there and I couldn't remember it. Thank you, John. Calbera. Write that down. And then the last one, this one is specifically honoring Alan Lawrence Jr. Whereas on Saturday afternoon, February 20th, 2021, an incident took place in our town that resulted in the injury of a state trooper and the
I
arrest
think
of
you,
5.
Tammy, you have to move your screen down. You might want to full screen it too.
Is it?
We can't, it's just frozen on the first proclamation.
Okay, hold on. Let me stop sharing and share again because I moved it, but for some reason it didn't.
Yep.
Let me try again. You see it now?
Yes.
Okay. On Saturday afternoon, February 20th, 2021, an incident took place in our town that resulted in the injury of a state trooper and the arrest of 5 individuals for various crimes. And the individual responsible for the apprehension of 3 of these criminals is Alan Lawrence Jr. And whereas Mr. Lawrence located 3 of the 5 individuals as they attempted to hide in a shed on his property. Upon finding the individuals, Mr. Lawrence quickly and selflessly acted by giving no regard to his own well-being and blocking their route out of the shed until the police units in the area could apprehend them. And whereas it was because of Mr. Lawrence's action that these individuals were arrested and subsequently charged with their crimes. And whereas if he had not acted in the community-driven manner in which he did, these people could have potentially continued in their attempted burglaries in town. Now, therefore, I, Tammy Nuccio, Chairwoman of the Tolland Town Council, on behalf of the Town Council and community at large, recognize Mr. Lawrence, a Tolland resident and local businessman, for his bravery and selfless actions in the name of the common good in our town. Anybody have anything on that one? I think Mr. Lawrence was going to join tonight.
He is on a meeting.
He is. There's like 66 people, so I'm not sure where he is. Mr. Lawrence, if you are on, could you raise your hand, please? It's down in the participants. There's a little button to raise your hand.
Hi, Tammy. It's Ben Christensen. He's on watching with me. Thank you.
Oh, he is. Oh, Ben, can you raise your hand so I can see you? 3 pages of people.
You might not have heard, you might need to reiterate that. I don't even know if they have camera, if they have a webcam.
Well, you know,
but-
Mr. Lawrence, I personally just want to thank you. Your acts stopped my heart a little bit. Your bravery is, I can't even imagine what it took to do that. And I just want to thank you for going out of your way to do that, because there could have been a lot more damage than there already was. And that's scary. And it's scary that you put yourself in that harm's way to do that. But I am honored and privileged to be able to present that proclamation to you after it is voted on and signed. So just thank you for your service to our town. Okay, Town Council, does anyone have anything that they would like to change in any of these? Brenda.
Thank you, Brenda Felucci. I'm just a little confused on the process because in the minutes, it said that, you know, we were going to have proclamations recognizing, doing these 3 proclamations. It didn't say that there was an approval. So there might be a little confusion on the, the public's part, expecting just to see the proclamations go forward and expecting, to be here during the reading, the formal reading of them. So if there was changes we wanted to make, we would make them and then have to vote on them again. Is that what's happening?
Well, this is the proposed language right now.
Okay,
So if you
'cause
have any kind of issues with any part of the proclaimed language, you could state so now, and then Mike could make those changes. Otherwise, I think we would just vote.
Right. That wasn't I have no issues with the proposed language. I'm just saying if we were going to be approving proposed language, it probably should have said that in the proclamation area. So that when residents show up, if we were to start making changes, they would understand. And it just, I don't know, it doesn't seem very professional, the way that we're handling this, or it doesn't seem perfect. And I want these to be perfect. I think it is where I'm going. was everybody that is on these proclamations invited today? Or were they not invited because we were expecting to make changes?
I don't think it was on the agenda that the proclamations were there. So I think Mr. Lawrence and Mr. Christensen asked about it. They are here. But I don't think anybody else is because I haven't signed them yet. They're not official. This is the language. We're looking at the language of them right now.
Right. What I'm saying is that our agenda just doesn't say that we were going to be approving the language. So I'm looking for a process that we can look forward to in the future. I'm very appreciative of everybody in these three proclamations. It just seems that we didn't dot our I's and cross our T's. It seems like things could have slipped through the cracks. That's
Okay.
all.
Thank you. Noted. Anybody have any questions regarding the language? Steve?
Steve Jones, no questions regarding the content. Just again, thanking Public Safety, Troop C, Resident State Troopers, Mr. Lawrence for all their assistance in those events, as well as appreciating the recognition of Disability Awareness Month. I was just going to comment as well. Looks like in our past minutes that are for approval, that there wasn't a vote to or a discussion really about whether or not we needed to augment any additional language. Going back to the last meeting for Black History Month, as well as the recognition for Robert Noonan, it seemed as though the minutes don't reflect any vote or finalized changes. So if we need a revision to the process, maybe we can talk to Town Manager Rosen offline about making it clearer, but it just doesn't seem like when the language is appropriately provided, we don't necessarily have to have another vote to approve the final language.
Yeah, I don't think we have to vote on it. This is just we voted to do it. So now we have the language. So I would say, at this point, if anybody has any problems with the language, we could change it, but otherwise, we obviously need to work on the process and procedure of this. But for now, if anybody has any changes to the proposed language, we can let Mike know that now. But otherwise, I think I'm good with the language as it is.
Yeah, I'm fine with it too.
All right, so Mike, at this point, would you say you want a vote that everybody's good with the language, or we're just gonna go ahead?
We haven't been
Already
doing
voted
that.
on it.
So yeah, we haven't been doing the second
Yeah.
vote. You just do the vote to give me permission to get the language together. So
Yep,
sounds to
so
me
we're-
like we have 3 versions that are good to go. They just need to be signed now.
Yep, I'll come down and sign them, and then we can work on the presentations. We can talk about that offline. Thank you. All right, that gets us to number 5, public holy moly, public petitions, communications, and public participation on any subject within the jurisdiction of the town council with a 2-minute limit. If you are on the phone and you would like to make a comment, you can raise your hand. There's a raise hand button in the participants, or if you're on a phone, it is *9, and your hand will be raised then. If you raise your hand and want to speak, you'll need to state your name and address for the record before commenting.
And just one other thing, if there are any comments regarding the public hearing, we request that residents save those comments for the public hearing section of the agenda, which is under 6.1.
Correct. If you're talking about the fire station, we will have a public hearing. At that point, you can make comments then. All right. I don't see anything from anybody. That gets us.
I think Rebecca had their
people
hand
popped
up.
up.
It went down, so it's backed up again, and now I see Katie. So
Yep. Rebecca Risley.
Thank you. Sorry, I was confused by the comment about moving some of the comments to the end. So this is suitable for now. Rebecca Risley, 103 Mountain Spring Road. I'm speaking tonight and respectfully request that the Republican majority town council not dismiss a thoughtful and difficultly crafted budget presented and unanimously approved by the Republican majority Board of Education. The reason I'm stressing the Republican part in this is because the vote in the earlier discussion was quite obviously made along party lines. There's nowhere left to cut. You cannot summarily dismiss and ignore the voices of half or more of the town's voting population. For years, harm has been done to our schools and our town departments. Nowhere is this more evident than our current need to revamp our fire department to the tune of $5 million plus, every penny of which they deserve and should receive. And I apologize if that's commenting on what's happening later, but I did want to make sure that I noted that. Any attempt to implement a vision for multi-year improvement has been ignored and thwarted through 1,000 micro-cuts to the system. Our town needs visionaries, not to micromanaging with pennies and dimes. I'd like to thank, first of all, our Board of Education Chair, Ms. Lundgren, for publicly voicing her wholehearted and full support of the budget last week. In addition, I've rewatched several recent DOE meetings and would like to provide the following quotes from several Republican members. In the words of Ms. Ford, quote, "For 10 weeks, we did our homework. Who better to sell this budget than us? We dug so deep into the weeds that Jacob Mari asked more questions than I ever asked when I was a newbie on Board of Education. I like this team, and I think this team can work together to get the council to buy into this budget," end quote. Ms. Esau adds, quote, "I don't have a lot because George pretty much said my thoughts as well. We need to open up a dialogue with the town council. The goal is to have them understand the budget and to approve it. And I think we communicated that we went through the budget with a fine-tooth comb," end quote. And finally, from Mr. Murray, quote, "Big thank you to Dr. Willett and all the staff. I'm sure that has helped to put together this document. I think we've really been able to work together, the board and our staff, to craft a document that really meets our goals. I think that this budget is a good document that will help our schools rebuild after a year of craziness. And I think that we're doing this with prudent use of the ESSER funds and perhaps the ERF down the road. It's a smart move, and I look forward to presenting this to the town council," end quote. So I will close with this. If the council refuses to listen to the voice of half or more of your voters, perhaps you'll heed the words of your Republican counterparts on the Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie Murray.
Katie Murray, 8 Lisa Lane. My comments are being made as a elector in town and not in any of my volunteer roles. I wanted to express my confusion that this meeting started, was called to order by Representative Nuccio per the Zoom labels. I do appreciate that oversight seems to have been corrected at this point. However, I believe that this council is aware, and I certainly understand that the town council chairwoman is aware that there are lines drawn between the role of state representative and town council member. And I would urge this council to hold Ms. Nuccio accountable to those differentiations. And I would plead with Ms. Nuccio to be sure that she is also aware of the distinction. Thank you.
Thank you. The oversight of my name had to do with signing on with Zoom, and it was corrected immediately, but thank you for pointing that out. Anybody else? All right. Oh, Dana?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Good evening, everybody. And sorry, Dana Philbin, 11 Harvest Lane. Sorry, I'm not used to saying that. I just want to, I was on the 6 p.m. Zoom with the town council discussing the budget. And there was just a few notes and things that I wanted to review. And I want to reiterate and thank Ms. Risley for citing some of the comments that my peers and my teammates had made during this entire budget process. It was a unanimously approved of 9 Board of Ed members of diverse background and diverse political affiliates. But we did do the work of over 10 weeks to find a budget that would suit and fulfill our students and staff needs, as well as support our town as a whole. I am concerned that we are starting with a number for a mill rate number to meet before we actually look at and find and fulfill the needs of what our students and staff need. Our professionals in the room, Mike Rosen, town manager, professional Dr. Willett in the room, provided budgets that they felt would move the town forward, would move the town through this pandemic, and would support all departments within the town of Tolland. i.e. our services through our fire department, our planning and zoning commissions, our board of ed, our library services, so on and so forth. I get concerned when we talk about cutting services for people and cutting and using it and equating to increasing mill rates for some of those folks that can't afford increase in their taxes. I would challenge our town council, and I would challenge people on the Zoom, that the people that we're so concerned about increasing their taxes are the people that so desperately need our support and our services through the Board of Education, through our school system, through our town services, and so on and so forth. What I mean by that is having more cost-effective housing for the family of single mother of 4 that can't afford a tax increase and can't afford that extra cup of coffee a week, which equates to some people's tax increase. I would equate that to our special affordable multifamily housings would lower our median income, which can increase our federal funding. I would talk about the programs for our arts, for sports, for students with special needs programs, and to support our school personnel and staff, to provide them with the tools to properly do their jobs, to support our students and our community as a whole. Those parents that cannot afford a tax increase, which equates to a single cup of coffee, are also the parents that can't afford those extra fees that are required or that are requested based on funds that are not budgeted in our Board of Ed budget that our families are asked to provide, i.e. glue sticks, dry erase markers, erasers, pencils, paper, and the list goes on. And those are just kindergartners, first grade and second graders, let alone when they get into high school with sporting activities. So my last question to the town council would be, I'm concerned that the 3.19 is going to be cut down to a 2%. But if this doesn't pass at referendum, does the majority council plan on continuing to make more cuts to the town side and the Board of Ed side, as well as all aspects of the town? One is I want to be able to make sure that we fully support our students and staff, but I also don't want to underfund our resources, i.e. the fire department, because when there is an emergency in town.
Sorry, Dana, I just need to interject. It's 2 minutes for the first section and 3 for the second. I kind of gave you an extra minute. So if you're able to summarize, my apologies.
Yeah, I'm going to sum it up with, I want to make sure that if we have a service that we need for the Tolland Fire Department, they are provided with the tools to service and help our families as well. Thank you. And I apologize for going long. I am long-winded. Thank you, Steve Jones.
No worries. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Madhu.
Thank you. First, I just wanted to say I appreciated the hard work that the board and town staff did, along with Mr. Rosen and Dr. Willett, for proposing a budget that, while fiscally conservative, adequately served the needs of the town. Over the past few months, I've had the pleasure of speaking with residents of the town who have expressed their support for the board's adopted budget. Of all the people that took the time to write into us, not one expressed any concern with the amount of increase that the board requested. During our public budget deliberations, where we went through the budget line by line and questioned everything, including new staff positions, not one person raised an objection or disagreed with what the board was asking for. As a result, the board agreed that this was a responsible budget and unanimously adopted it. During last week's town council budget meeting, not one person disagreed with any budgetary request that any department had requested. It appears that the only group that has an issue with the budget that were presented are the majority on the town council. I get that there's no malicious intent, and I get that this is a thankless job, and I appreciate you doing that job. But it appears that instead of listening to the overwhelming voices of residents, that you are more than content to go to referendum with what you think is justified and needed, not the needs that were actually expressed by residents and recommended by town staff. The services in town will suffer for it, and so in turn will the residents. We can't count on federal funds to bail us out when we don't know what the restrictions are on them. I personally would have liked to have let people decide what they want, not what you're willing to give them. But like Steve Jones said earlier, I'm willing to work across the aisle to ensure that this passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Liz Costa.
Hi, Liz Costa, 54 Josiah Lane. Thanks, everybody. I'd first like to thank our public safety officers and the town resident for their heroic efforts in January. Secondly, I'd like to ask the town council chair to include her back of the envelope budget spreadsheet, whatever, in the minutes from the previous meeting. And third, I'd like to say that I do feel it was an arbitrary number no matter what, because you spent 3.5 hours grilling our superintendent on budget needs in the joint council meeting and then came up with an arbitrary 2%. Not one of those counselors, not one of you counselors heard where those cuts would be taken. So I would ask you to reconsider and go with the 3.19. Thank you.
Kate Vallow.
Hi there, Kate Vallow, 80 Tolland Green. First, I just wanted to thank you guys for the opportunity to speak this evening, and also for your service to the town of Tolland. I know you're all volunteers and you work really hard, and I appreciate that. I had the opportunity to be on the last meeting, the 6 p.m. Budget meeting that happens this evening. And I also wanted to thank the town staff, both the town manager as well as the superintendent, and all of the employees that have worked so hard to get these numbers together and really be thoughtful about what the needs are of the community. So as a constituent and a mom to emerging civically minded kids, I would just like to respectfully request that all future business by the council be completed fully in public. It was apparent to me in the last call at 6 p.m. this evening that there had been some discussion prior to the meeting, which is understandable. There's a lot of work to do. It sounded like there were some comments made like the majority are comfortable with this and that kind of thing. It led me to believe that there had been some caucusing, and I get that. I know that that's part of the process. And really, I want to be clear that I would be saying this no matter which party was at play. But I'm just seeking some transparency and collaboration in a bipartisan way, so that we don't run into issues where like a minority member is like, oh, I'm not really sure, you know, what are those numbers? And we just simply don't have time. I understand that there are time limitations and issues with the structure of the meeting. So I just want to be included in the process. I want to model that for my kids. I know that this community is able to do that. And we've seen it happen time and time again. So I just kind of wanted to surface that and ask that in the future, if we could really be cognizant of that, this community would love for, I believe I'm not alone in saying this community would love to see that everyone is being represented and that our representatives are working together on that. So thank you. Thank you again for your service. Thank you for your time and for all the hard work that everybody's putting in.
Thank you. Deputy Chief Joshin.
Oh, you're still muted.
There we go. I understand everybody is picking and choosing over what is most dear to them, and I understand that. We all have hard cuts to make. I've worked with Chief Lytle over the past probably 5 years on the budgets. And believe me, we've cut staffing, we've cut equipment that we need. And we have mandates that the town manager puts out that, you know, this is the level we have to meet. And we try to meet that. And unfortunately, it's some choosing, and we don't all like that. We're all taxpayers in town. We want to be able to afford living in town. I've lived here my whole life, and believe me that the taxes have gone up extremely, quite a bit since I was younger. And we still do get a great service for what we're paying. You know, there's a lot of fixed costs that people don't see in there with utilities, fuels, contracts, things of that nature. So what we're cutting is service-related things such as losing career staff. We lost a career staff position. We got cut back for one of our administrative assistant positions. We're missing being able to purchase equipment that allows us to comply with OSHA regs and have to make do with what we're given at the time. So I just hope people will keep in mind that it's not a Board of Ed against the town. It's everybody should be working together and try to come up with a fiscally responsible budget for all, not tilted one way or the other. And I know it's a hard thing. And I believe me, I don't want to be on either one of the groups that have to do this. It's bad enough to be in the position that we're at. And I commend you all for the jobs you do. And just keep in mind that we have to represent everybody, and everybody's got different financial backgrounds and issues. And it's a tough thing to balance. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. I appreciate that. Anybody else? All right, we're going to go on to 6 public hearing items.
I'm sorry,
Tonight
you
we
have
have
one
a
more
public
hand.
hearing. Pardon me?
You have one more hand up.
Oh, popped up.
Christina
forward,
snuck
it
in at the
popped
last
up as
second.
a slow to the hand there. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was close. I was slow with the hand. Christina Plord, 101 Metcalf. Thank you guys for your work tonight, as well as the previous meeting. I know the board has work to do, but I'm going to speak as a resident and not necessarily as a board member. I'll be able to speak to that later after talking to Dr. Willett and the rest of the board. But I'd like to thank you for taking into account how high the taxes have gone up, and that I really appreciate you not pushing people out of their homes and into affordable housing. I think people that own their homes, that want to stay here, that have asked to keep their kids here, deserve their voice to be heard as well. So thank you for that, guys.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else? All right, we are moving on. Public hearing items. Tonight we have a public hearing item, resolution authorizing the appropriation of $5 million for the Firehouse Improvement Project and the financing of said appropriations by the issuance of general obligation bonds of the town and notes in anticipation of said bonds in an amount not to exceed $5 million or so much as may be necessary after deducting grants, therefore, as well as establishing a date for a referendum. Mike, that was a
All right.
mouthful. We got to learn to write those a little bit shorter.
Well, that's very legalese, and we need
the
we need that language.
legalese, right?
Yes, we do need that language. Hi, everybody. Mike Rosen, Town Manager. So thank you for introducing this item. This public hearing that we're going to have tonight was set at the previous town council meeting and is sort of a long time coming. And depending on who you ask, it's quite a long time coming. But even just process wise, you know, it took us a while to get to tonight's item. So this item that's before all of us is the renovation and capital improvements to 3 of the town's 4 fire stations. So specifically, we're talking about doing additions, space needs, fixing crumbling foundations for Station 140, as well as specifically the space needs and improvements to kitchen areas, to living quarters and things like that for stations 340 and 440. And for those 2 stations, the recommendation is to actually knock down the existing buildings and start over again with Morton-style prefabricated buildings. And I think before I really get too far into the item summary, I'd like to take another shot at playing that video that we do have up on the town website. But in case anyone's joining us tonight for the first time or may have kind of found this meeting by accident, I want to be able to share this item with you all. So I did figure out how to do the sound. So let me share my screen, and hopefully everybody will be able to stop me if you can't hear the sound.
I'll yell if it's not working.
Okay, all right, ready, everybody? Here we go.
3 out of 4 of Tolland Fire Department stations need upgrades. Repairs were originally slated to take place in 2004, but were deferred. And the condition of the stations has since further deteriorated. At Station 140, located on Crystal Lake Road, the apparatus bays were originally designed to park 2 fire trucks front to back. The station was brought online more than 20 years ago, and the bays have now become too short for this positioning due to the size of modern-day apparatus. In addition, Station 140 lacks space for training and sleeping quarters for overnight crews. The station also lacks a designated locker room, as lockers are currently crowded into space within the mechanical room. The latest research shows that firefighters need to decontaminate themselves and their turnout gear after exposures in an effort to reduce the risks of cancer. The current decontamination areas fall short of industry recommendations, lacking space for the appropriate equipment, therefore leaving firefighter personnel at greater risk. With a crumbling foundation, the station also lacks long-term viability if not repaired. The upgrades to this station would include lengthening bays, adding sleeping quarters, training space, and areas for staff to properly decontaminate themselves after call for service. At Station 340, located on Gearing Road, the kitchen area sits inside the bays, next to the fire trucks. The windows and door jambs are decaying to an unacceptable degree, due in part to the compromised roof. Brought online in 1975, this 46-year-old station does not have suitable decontamination areas, a day or night room, significantly lacks storage, is missing proper bathroom and changing facilities, and only has a small dedicated office area. At Station 440, located on Plains Road, there is so little storage that the bays are filling up with cots, hose, and equipment. Brought online in 1988, this 33-year-old station does not have suitable decontamination areas, a day or night room, significantly lacks storage, is missing proper bathroom and changing facilities, and only has a small dedicated office area. While it has a kitchen, the area is antiquated. In addition, the exterior of the building displays deteriorating masonry. With their worsening exteriors, the town is looking to replace both Station 340 and Station 440 with cost-effective prefabricated steel or Morton-style structures. This approach has proven to be a successful, cost-effective solution in neighboring communities. As demand for service from Tolland Fire Department rises and industry recommendations aimed at protecting firefighting personnel develop, the need for properly functioning facilities is becoming more pressing. Fire stations are an essential part of the town's infrastructure, providing the necessary spaces for firefighters to be able to do their jobs as safely and efficiently as possible. Ultimately, stations should provide space for training, proper decontamination, locker rooms and bathroom facilities, shelter for firefighters during extreme weather standbys, as well as house life-saving apparatus and equipment. With this proposal, the town looks to modernize and improve its facilities with responsible, cost-effective spending.
Great. So thank you to Chief Lytle and his staff for providing us with that special treat video. That is on the town website, which I think they did a phenomenal job on. That somebody's phone's going on.
Don't hear it.
Does anybody know where that's coming from?
I do see, I think TFD, there's a TFD name all in caps that's unmuted.
Okay, I think we're okay now. I'm not sure what that was. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So, all right, I lost my train of thought, but thank you to the chief for that special treat. Great job on the video. What that did was it sort of snapshots, it showcases the deficiencies of those three buildings. The only one that's not being considered at this time is Station 240, which is the one that's adjacent to the fire training facility along 195 Merrill Road. The video did a great job. It showed all the existing conditions. We have a lot more material that's out there, which I can, maybe click through a little bit, and also perhaps give John a chance to just kind of go over a little bit about each of the three stations. But just mechanically, what we're doing today is we're gearing up for the same referendum that the budget question is going to be on for May 4th. What we'd like to do is have this be a standalone referendum question to authorize the appropriation of $5 million for the project to fix up all three of those fire stations, 140, 340, and 440. This has been in the capital plan for, I don't know, probably 15 years, John. Correct me if I'm wrong, maybe more. But even more recently, it's been in the most recent version of the capital plan for the last 5 years. It's been kind of coming down the line. We've seen it coming. The one thing that has changed since it originally was in the 5-year plan was that there was a placeholder amount of $3 million in the capital plan, which after Chuck Eaton, our town engineer, his firm did the study and looking into what the actual needs are of the three stations, he advised us to amend that number to $5 million to accurately reflect and capture all the actual improvements that are going to be needed to be done on those three stations. So, well, I mean, John, would it be a good idea now? I'll put up the slides and maybe we can just talk a little bit about the three buildings.
Yes, sir.
All right, give me 1 second while I get that up here. Okay, so all of this is on the town website as well, but let me share my screen again here. Okay, so we did present this once before, a little while ago. So this is not necessarily new information, and this is also on the website. But just as an overview, the 3 specific stations again are Station 140, which is located at 64 Crystal Lake Road. It was built in 1995. It's got 5,700 square feet, and that's broken down between 4,000 or so feet in the apparatus bay and about only 400 feet of living quarters. We're talking about adding on probably almost doubling its size to 10,000 square feet. And there's also a crumbling foundation at Station 140. It's significant enough that we want to fix the problem now. We want to take out the crumbling foundation issue, and that's built in to this project number. Before we start adding on, we want to make sure the foundation is sound first before you start building any add-ons or anything new onto it. So that's an important aspect of what we're doing at Station 140. And Station 340 is an older building from 1975, about 247 Gehring Road. We're talking about adding on 660 square feet, and that's going to make room for more storage. It's going to have expansion of the apparatus bay to allow rotation of equipment and allow for more storage of equipment that's currently kept outside. It's going to upgrade the bathroom facilities from their current poor condition, and also the kitchen space as well. And again, this is what for 340 and 440, rather than trying to improve the existing facilities, we're talking about demolishing 340 and 440 and starting over again with new Morton style buildings, which I have renderings on the town website as well, but I'm just doing a quick overview on these now. But and then just lastly, 440 is at 107 Plains Road, built in 1989. Again, this is we're talking about adding on 660 square feet, much of the same as 340. Very similar architecture of the 2 buildings, and they will be replaced with mirror image buildings of each other, ideally, of course. So, John, I know I'm kind of going quick here. Is there anything you want to specifically highlight about those 3 facilities?
No, I just, my only concern is that, I don't know if Kate Murray is still on the line or not, but obviously I have concerns as far as, as we all should. I'm not an engineer or an earth person, but obviously we have the crumbling foundation at Station 140, and I'm always worried about the unsuitable soil or anything else wise. I have no idea. So I hope that this number as we move forward is a right number. I'm trying to put something forth in the community that is obviously cost effective. We're looking to use Morton type of buildings, which we've done our studies and we've looked at. Morton has come a long way. I encourage the public to, Google the Morton websites and look at the different types of buildings that are out there. We're not looking for, any extraordinary items, but obviously our standards change, the same as Carl. And I truly appreciate Carl stepping up tonight to speak about the budget, because those guys go through some serious cuts before it even gets to the town manager. So there's a lot of things that I feel bad about. We have a great crew combination, volunteer and career. We have a very stringent career department, but especially during a day with a small career department, it'd be nice to at least have the facilities to let them shower or clean. They bring, they have all their own lockers normally, typically like any other business that they go to work, and if they have to change before the next call or anything else. And these guys have seen a lot of calls, especially over the last year with COVID. A lot of them have changed or taken showers or changed their clothes with a lot of the transports day and night. So when you get a lot of calls, and especially the cancer has really the cancer has really hit us hard over the last couple of years as far as new mandates and everything else wise. We're not even designing our fire trucks the way they're supposed to be as far as providing a separate compartment for taking out the turnout gear and separating it. So we're doing everything we can. I'm just trying to provide the tools as we move forth. As far as look at the future, I have no idea where we're going to go, but I encourage the public to look at the studies that are out there with the Fire Act of 2025. And, you know, it's harder recruiting volunteers and people to do this type of work because everybody's working 2 or 3 jobs, and the families are hard pressed that we don't get the volunteers back like it was in 1970, 80, or 90. You know, I look at the screen tonight and I see our past fire marshal, that Dick Municello, that's on tonight. That was started from day one, and Carl Dogen started way back in the day. You know, we've all worked at these stations, and they were good at the day and at age, but I encourage anybody that has any questions to email us, that we can share the type of apparatus that has been bought for those stations in 1970, 1980, into today's fire apparatus or emergency staff. So, you know, one of the things that we want to do right is, if we end up rebuilding a station, we want to do it, you know, obviously as cost effective as we can, but also to provide a station that's going to cover the next, you know, 40, 50 years. We don't know what the future is going to bring. And, you know, a lot of emails have been answered through the town council, the town manager. Deputy Chief Dogen has taken a lead as far as answering a lot of community questions. And, you know, if the COVID wasn't here, we'd have a lot more open houses to, you know, tour the people. And I hope the video kind of shows you a walkthrough of the conditions that are in those firehouses. And, you know, like Mr. Rosen has said, this is nothing new. You know, like I explained to the council a few years ago, we've been through numerous councils, numerous town managers, and it's something that, you know, the biggest bang for the buck, you know, obviously is our education system. And, you know, we've I'm not saying that we've taken any seats or anything, but, you know, there was a facilities management plan that was put together, like I said, way back in 2006, that we adopted as a town. Prior town manager, exclude me, Mr. Rosen, but prior town manager or town councils, I've been through 3 to 4 town managers and many, many town councils, and we've just been waiting our day to get these items addressed. And, you know, when Scott Lappin took over as the DBW director, he's done a great job as far as putting some Band-Aids as far as Station 340 of putting some, you know, facades on the stations. But we've had the roof for Station 340 in the budget for the last couple of years, but no time is right because we either run into financial aspects or it's the wrong time. You know, unfortunately, our town, and, you know, I commend a lot of the Board of Ed people. I commend you guys and a lot of the town residents saying, you know, out of 169 towns, and then Mr. Rosen, I hope you don't take this negatively, or the council, or even Tammy being on the state, but, you know, we try to budget our budget, but we're always waiting for the state to come back with their final numbers. How do we plan our budgets of not knowing where the state's coming back? Because we've taken a back seat over the last couple of years, and I've heard it from the motor vehicle taxes, the taxes, or the funding back to the Board of Ed. And we've always taken a worse number. I think Ellington got a better number than us a couple of years ago, as far as money back from the state versus us. And, you know, it's something where we've always taken a back seat, or we've always been in the back limelight. And I hate to say it, but unfortunately, probably my service is probably one of the worst services that the town manager has to deal with, or the council has to deal with, because we have a lot of entities that you can't go to Home Depot, you can't buy off the shelf. You unfortunately have to buy that meets OSHA, NIOSH, or any other regulations. And, you know, with the cancer stuff, I ain't making that up. We're very fortunate to have a lot of great donations in the community, in a town, with our phone book or fundraisers that we do. And everything that we do, we put back into the town, we put back into the service. The washers and dryers that we've got at Station 140, those have been purchased from either grants or donations that are almost $30,000 worth of washers and dryers. It'd be nice to have them at the other stations or to future plan out. But as our times have come, you can see the DPW is not putting sand or anything else down. We've gone to a salt or a different type of mixture. As we start washing vehicles or other aspects, when you guys are investing $1 million on a piece of apparatus, it would be nice to clean or wash it and have a containment system. So if I'm redoing a station, I'd rather have the right drainage, the right containment system to maximize. We're one department that has always said we're spending $750,000, or if we replace truck 240, truck 240 in 1990 costed this community $229,000. To replace that ladder truck's $1.1 million today. We bought a used aerial, refurbed it, but if we had to replace it, it would be $1 million. But we try to have these guys washing them at nighttime and cleaning them, and then having the air quality to make sure that the salt is not eating away. And there's nobody that can disagree with me, and it's nothing against DPW or the state, but the salt and the other items are doing this destruction on your own personal car, our vehicles, our apparatus. I have an ambulance being towed as we speak tonight from St. Francis Hospital. That means that your ambulance is out of service tonight. You are going to wait 25 to 30 minutes for a mutual aid to come to your town if our first ambulance is out. So we're trying to plan ahead. And we've always said, if we had the additions of the bays to keep our ambulances, our apparatus in place, then we'll try to guarantee as much as we can. And when I say about the budget, if yous had to communicate a paid 24/7 department in this community for the amount of calls that we run, you would be looking at least a $5 million operating budget, if not more. And we're very fortunate to have a combination department, and we try to make it one department versus union versus volunteer. And like I said, as we move forth, we're looking at not the cheapest, but something that is workable, livable, and all the answers that have been answered. Carl and I talked 15 times today. Think about the hurricanes in 2011. If you look across the country and the nation of what Texas and other people are going through, I would love to be able to have the space and the adequate space to do what I did back in 2010 and 11. That Station 440, some might think that we're using it as a storage facility. We are not. It has equipment in there. Yes, we're storing the Christmas fire truck in there, but the other fire truck that normally goes there is out at rehab, which was approved in the budget. That's due back in the next month or so. So that truck will be moved somewhere else, whether it's outside or inside. But the Christmas truck, or the holiday truck, has been on many calls during the nighttime while it's out in its holiday tour. That has been proven life safety, as well as when I house Station 4 at major snowstorms or anything else, you have the staff right there to respond that is fast. Tolland is 42 square miles. Look in your GPS and travel from point A to point B in the middle of the night at 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning. No difference than last Friday night when we cut a 15-year-old out of a vehicle in town. It took 13 minutes to get over to that scene. And then obviously we've had, obviously roads were shut. But then on the flip side, our world is bad because exit 67 was closed. And then how do you get to Harvard Hospital with an ambulance? So, we're trying to do the best we can for the community. When we go to, if this is approved, we would love to include the community to help us lay out the area to include a community. I can tell you that the next year's budget process will be different. We will be looking for some input from different members. But I can tell you, out of 13 volunteer officers, 2 career officers, that their budget is cut unanimously before it even gets to Mr. Rosen's desk. And there's only so much I can do with the services that we have, or the money that's allotted. But this is something where the stations are open. My office is open 24/7. Reach out to me. I guarantee that any of my officers, daytime or nighttime, will meet you there, and we'll open up the stations and walk you through to take a look. And we value the community input. We're all residents here. We're trying to do the best that we can. And unfortunately, we're at the we're at the end of the budget or the capital where our items are all coming at one time. And it comes with a very high price tag. And I truly apologize. And I know all my staff apologize for it. So we appreciate the input, but we thought the best thing was to do a video because of COVID times, to give a walkthrough, to kind of give a public view. So other than that, I thank you and the public and all the support and Mr. Rosen and the council.
Okay, so thank you, John. So that was a pretty overarching, summary of everything that goes on, and a lot of that was pertinent to what's on the table tonight. So what I was hoping to do is at this point, have Chuck Eaton, who's he wears a couple of hats. One is he's our town engineer, and the other is he works for the firm CHA Architecture. That was the group that actually did the study on the fire stations. So Chuck, if you're good, let me share my screen, and this will be the memo with the scope of work narrative. Maybe you can walk us through some of the costs and how the 5 million came to be. Let me share my screen, and okay, go ahead, Chuck.
Sure. So Chuck Eaton, town engineer. Mike asked me to be here tonight to kind of give you an idea as how we got from point A to point B with the costs. So we worked with John and his staff and with Mike and his staff to put together a space program for the needs of the fire department. And we looked at station 140, 340, and 440. And what we did is we took a look at the needs and basically put costs together associated with those different needs. And so for station 140, the most significant thing was the crumbling foundation. Obviously, before you put money into the building, you want to make sure that you're not going to expand the building or rehab the building and then have to go back and replace a foundation or take down what you just put up. So we've included the foundation replacement in the costs for station 140. And essentially we're looking at expanding station 140 to provide additional bay space and training facilities, and like what John just went through with his video, to provide additional office space, sleeping quarters, training, this sort of thing. There's other areas that also need work, the electrical, typical infrastructure within the building. What we're looking at doing is expanding the building towards the, eastern parking lot that's there, and expanding the bays out from the front of the building. And what this will do is it'll allow you to kind of have a much more cohesive building. So by obviously expanding the bays in front, you're going to have to redo the front facade. That would allow you to then blend that in with the new addition, so that the building, it doesn't look like a Band-Aid, so to speak, on the building, or a simple addition. The building, has a cohesive look to it. So basically, you're looking at about $2.1 million to make these upgrades to that building, including the foundation replacement. And I can jump into the other buildings, or if you have, Mike, if you want me to go through more detail on station 140, I can do that.
Chuck, why don't you cover the 3 buildings, and then we'll go back if we have
Sure.
to. Yeah, can you still? I'm trying to advance my slides with your narrative, so everyone should be looking at station 340 right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So station 340 and 440 are kind of twins, so to speak. They're the same footprint, same design. And so what we are proposing to do is carry that over into the future buildings. What we did is we did an analysis of the needs of the fire department for those buildings, and put numbers together with those needs. And when you compare the rehab that needs to be done on the existing buildings and the cost of a pre-engineered metal building, it's actually less expensive to put up a new pre-engineered metal building. So essentially, those buildings would have some additional square footage of office, sleeping, bathroom space, and the big addition would be a third bay on each one of those buildings. And essentially, if you compare the costs, you know, it's not a huge difference when we're looking at $5 million for this entire project. You know, the cost difference, I think, for Station 340, you know, it's $250,000 difference between putting up a new building and rehabbing the existing building. So it's, to put up a new building, it would be about $250,000 less. For Station 440, you're looking at about $150,000 less to put up a new building as opposed to rehabbing the existing building. Both of these stations have significantly deteriorated roofs, and as you saw in the video, that's causing a lot of problems for the building structure as far as the masonry goes. Station 340 has, on a regular basis, ponding water inside the bays due to the leaking roof. So those stations are going to continue to quickly degrade unless those roofs are replaced. You know, the town has gotten a very long, the town's definitely gotten their money out of those roofs. They're well beyond their lifespan and their warranty period and this sort of thing. So they're due to be replaced. So obviously, if we're looking at removing or demoing the existing buildings and putting up new buildings, obviously you don't want to be putting a new roof on a building you're going to demo in a year. But if the way the budget goes, if we don't end up replacing those two stations, that's one of the things that the town should look at first, is putting new roofs on those buildings if we're going to have to wait a few years to replace them. So that kind of, in a nutshell, you know, the three buildings and the bonding costs and the design costs and this sort of thing brings you right up to the $5 million.
Thank you, Chuck, for the overview on that. Again, all those materials are on the fire station project portion of the town website. When you go to the homepage on the left-hand side, you'll see it says Firehouse Capital Project, and all these slides, the renderings, as well as the video, are all linked there for everyone's review. So at this point, I appreciate that everyone, you know, that Chuck's weighed in and everything. I don't know if Scott Lappin, our DPW director, had anything to add as well. I asked him to be here just in case there were any other questions or any other comments he'd like to make, since you know, Public Works has a component to this as well. Scott, was there anything you wanted to add?
Just that, you know, we have looked at these buildings. We've done pretty much as we can to help out the fire department with removal of asbestos tile, removal of lockers, things like that. Anytime they come up with repairs that need to be done, our crews are over there right away. But the buildings are old, and when Chuck and his crew started looking at these, and John kept talking about Morton buildings, it was like, okay, well, let's look into the Morton, and I think that's the best route to go right now. You'll find a lot of emergency services buildings, whether it be police and fire, dispatching centers, are going that route, and they don't look like what you would typically expect a Morton building to look like. They're a classy building, but they're not extremely expensive. And what's nice about them is they're pre-engineered, so it doesn't have to go through the whole design system. But it's regardless what we do, if this doesn't pass, then we're going to have to invest some serious money in the roofs and what have you, and that's not going to help John and his crew out. And if any questions come up that I can help with, you know, I'll still be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. And I'll just sort of end this preamble just by also acknowledging that, we have a few other guests in the audience tonight too. Lisa Hancock, obviously, as the finance director, has a pretty large role with anything, when we're buying new capital projects. This is part of the capital plan. But we also have Barry Bernardi, who's our managing director for Phoenix Advisors. That's our municipal financial advisory firm, is here tonight to answer if there's any questions about the bonding of this, and as well as Mike Patello, who's our bond counsel, is here. So a lot of people, as well as all the members of the fire department that are here tonight, are stand ready to answer council and the public's questions about the project, which is sorely needed and has waited a long time to get to this point where we're recommending that it does go to referendum May 4th as the $5 million project that's outlined. We think it's a responsible project as drafted. It's been expected for several years, as it has been on the capital plan. We actually, we're addressing the crumbling foundation issue, that was the change up that I don't think we expected for this project, but we're bundling that in as well. So I think overall, this is going to give the fire department what they need to subsist for the next few decades. Thank you. Like I said, we all stand ready to answer council and the public's questions. Thank you.
Oh, you're still muted, Tammy. You're Chairman Nuccio.
Sorry, I was muting there. So with that, I will accept a motion to open the public hearing.
Jones, I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Brenda Felucci, I second.
Any discussion? All
Just,
those in favor, pardon me?
Sorry, I raised my hand. I was just going to say thank you to all the staff that both and volunteers that both sent in emails as well as are on tonight if they plan to speak or have any questions that they can answer for us. So thank you.
No problem. I figure this time it was better with everybody on for us to hear the public, and then we can discuss after that. So all those in favor? Brenda?
Aye.
Cassandra?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
I lost you guys on my screen. John?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, that was a dog attack. Lou?
Aye.
Kurt?
Aye.
I'm an aye, so that's that. I'm opening up the meeting now for a public hearing. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand. That is on the, if you're on a device, there's a raise hand comment button you can push. Please state your name and address for the record before you start to comment. If you are on a phone, it is *9, and the same applies. When I call on you, state your name and address for the record. Ben Christensen.
Hi, thank you. Ben Christensen, 97 Virginia Lane. Really quick, let me just apologize for not being able to find the raise hand button earlier. Thank you for the kind words for my father. That being said, I just want to say that as a resident in town here, I fully 100% support allocating the money to the fire department. They provide an invaluable service to this town, and we see them when they're driving lights and sirens or when we need them, but we also don't see all the work that they do in the background that they do to keep us safe and keep us secure in our homes. And I hope that as a town, we can come together collectively and support them when they need it. So again, I just want to say that I'm fully in support of allocating this money to them, and my endless thanks to what they do for this town. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Kate Vallow.
The Tolland Green. Thanks for the opportunity to participate in this public hearing. I'm speaking up to share my full support for the appropriation of the funds needed for the firehouse improvement project. I have the highest respect for the members of our fire department and for Chief Lytle. And I have a tremendous appreciation for the difficult and critically important job that they do in our community. They provide high quality services and really should have nothing less than high quality accommodations for their day-to-day professional jobs, as well as appropriate and efficient facilities for their use. It's clear that due diligence was done to figure out, exactly a strong needs assessment was done to figure out exactly what was needed. Frankly, I think we should have done this a lot sooner. It's high time, and I'm really hopeful that the community will support them in the same way that they support us. Thanks.
Thank you. It just says Michelle. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Next was Rebecca Risley.
Hi, thank you. Just want to extend my thanks to Chief Lytle and his entire team. I wholeheartedly and unequivocally support the improvements that are needed and funding that fully, and doing it as soon and as quickly as possible. The things you do for this town above and beyond what's happened just this year in COVID, and all the difficulties that you've faced, it is unbelievable. Just the accidents alone between the stretch of exits 67 and 69 on a basically daily basis that you have to respond to. And the fact that I don't know if you get state aid for that or what you get in that regard, but you should, and you should be getting more than whatever you're getting. So 0 is not acceptable. And I think that that's something that we should be looking at from a perspective with our state representatives, and we can certainly bring that up at another time. This obviously isn't the time to go into that, but we need more support from a state level on that highway stretch in particular. But just what you do in town is in and around town as well. We know that we can depend on you, and we want to support you the way that you support us. So thank you. I support it fully and just wanted to have my voice heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleen Udacek.
Good evening, Colleen Udacek, 12 Blueberry Hill, Tolland. I also I said it last meeting, 110% support our fire department. We're so lucky to have Chief Lytle and all his staff. They do tremendous amount of things for our community and keep all of us safe. And that's just what I want to say. I want to keep it simple. Again, thank you to our fire department, and you deserve what you are requesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I'm not sure. This just says Michelle.
Michelle Harold, 194 Sugar Hill Road. I would also like to thank Chief Lytle and his staff. They do some pretty amazing work. And as a former resident that used to live at the overpass at exit 67, I know how hard you all worked on that stretch of highway. I wanted to say that I support this project fully. I think our fire department and volunteers, and staff deserve better than what we are currently providing. I was pretty surprised at the condition of our fire facilities. I do have a question. If we have a plan to maintain these new facilities so that we don't end up in this position of disrepair again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Lisa Burns.
Hi, this is Lisa Burns, 214 Slater Road. I'm going to make this simple, but I'd like to show support for the fire department and giving them the money that they well deserved to update their facilities. Chief Lytle has been in front of the town council numerous times over many years, and I think it's time for the community to gather around our fire department and give them the upgrades that they need.
Thank you. Deb Getz.
Hi, Deb Getz, 176 Kate Lane. I wanted to put my full support to sending this to referendum. Over my 22 years here, we have supported many school projects. We've supported the public library project and the town hall project, and now it is the fire department's time. I fully support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? All right, not seeing anything else. Steve?
Steve Jones, I'd make a motion to close the public hearing.
Brenda Fusi, are we closing the public hearing or are we just closing public
Closing
comment?
the public hearing. Yep.
Closing public comment. If we close public hearing, then we can't ask for further
Sorry, my
information.
apologies. Closing public comment.
All right, Brenda Fusi, I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Brenda?
Aye.
Cassandra?
Oh, aye.
Steve?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
Kurt?
Aye.
And I am an aye, so that's unanimous. We close the public hearing. Okay, so counselors, at this point, does anybody have anything they would like to address regarding this? Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First off, I'd like to say that for Chief Lytle and all the members of the fire department there, having been a former volunteer firefighter who would be there with you as a volunteer now, but if it weren't for injuries that kept me out of it, and having worked with all of you over at the Emergency Operations Center during this pandemic, if anyone truly understands the challenges that you face, I can truly understand it. But I do, and I will say that I am voicing my support for your request, but I do have some questions regarding it. And the first would be well, several questions, I should say. The first would be to Chuck or to Chief Lytle regarding the construction. Based on the prior presentations, that it looks like there was a plan for a multi-phase construction plan where, based upon the equipment needs, that you couldn't do all three buildings at once, and that there would have to be a phased attempt to do it over a period of time, either one building at a time or two buildings at a time. So, Chuck, I see you nodding your head. If you can address that, is that what the plan is? To do it as a multi-phase? And that's my first aspect of my question.
Sure. Obviously, it would need to be phased because you couldn't have, three of your fire stations down at the same time. So we briefly discussed this in our meetings, and essentially nothing, as far as I know, has been nailed down yet. But Chief Lytle would essentially put together a plan based on the geography of the town and what equipment is needed where and what the shortest routes would be and this sort of thing, such that two of the stations could be in use while the other station is being rehabbed and so forth. The other nice thing about the pre-engineered buildings is that they typically go up a little quicker and that sort of thing. So, your overall construction period could be shortened. Basically, nothing is set in stone right now, but that would be the plan, is to phase things. So, John, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, Chuck, I would obviously lean on you as the expert in the field. But as we all know, and many residents and people are on the line tonight, Tolland has always been short of storage. So there would be nothing that I would want to do to jeopardize the safety of the community as far as, God bless you, Chuck, as far as dampening their response times. But, we're very fortunate to have a brand new highway garage, and I don't think Scott would limit me. We've done it before where we've had a store an apparatus or two up at the highway garage overnight. But if that was something that were ample, I'm sure that we could work out some type of schedule. But like you said, the Morton type of buildings go up faster. My concern, like I've said from day one, is we don't know what we're going to run into for a soil at station 340 on Gary Road, or as far as what we're going to find out for foundation wise, as far as station 140 on Crystal Lake Road or anything else wise. But, Crystal Lake Road is our main operating station. So we need to keep that up with our ambulance. But, as far as phases, we could probably do half of it and do something else. But something that we're definitely going to have to look at as far as weather in the community, because I can't, unfortunately, I don't watch the news anymore or the weather forecast because we never know where we're going to get. But it's something that we got to look at as we go forth from year to year as far as the weather patterns and everything else wise, because everybody knows in Tolland we get hit with some serious different types of storms. So depending on the year, depending on what we find, it's going to be a trial and error, and we will do the best we can with what we have for issues, and we can always juggle things around, but definitely a phased in approach. We can't tackle all three at one time. There's no way. And like I said in the beginning of the meeting, I really hope that Katie Murray is going to help us out here. She just built a brand new beautiful Birch Grove, so any help is always welcome.
And also, in terms of the soil thing, I think, Chuck, I know we connected on that. There's no indication at the moment that there's a soil issue. Chuck, can you clarify that? Maybe weigh in on that?
Yeah, sure. So based on the initial assessments that we've done, there doesn't appear to be any sort of significant unsuitable material there. You have typical settling of some of the slabs and that sort of thing, and that could have been from improper compaction during construction, or the vehicle weights have changed over time as the apparatus has gotten larger, so you have a lot more loads on the slabs. But there's no significant foundation settlement, things like that. And these are some of the design aspects that'll get tackled, if the referendum passes.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. When 140 was built, I don't think there was ever any mention of soils being bad. We would know from when we built 140. All we're doing here is adding an extension to that piece of land. So I'm assuming anything that was wrong would have been identified the first time it was built, just like it was with Birch Grove. Good, Chuck?
I'm sorry.
Chuck, would you agree?
Yes, that's a good assumption.
Thank you. That's what I kind of thought. But all right, Steve.
I'm sorry. I just had one follow-on question to that.
I'm sorry. Yes, sorry. I didn't mean to.
No, that's okay. Then based upon the fact that this could be a multi-phase, the concern is that as has been mentioned by both Chuck as well as by Scott, that there's issues regarding the roofing and other things. How would that be addressed then? I mean, if we're going to do this as a multi-phase approach, that means that one building, either 440 or 340 or one of those other buildings, will not necessarily be worked on or be rebuilt. So by that nature, that we would have to then, I guess, do repairs on one of the buildings, or is it something that would be sufficient enough for us to hold off on? I mean, because what I don't want is for us to do this, and then while we're waiting for the construction to be built, have to pay for repairs for the roofers or other things. So can that be addressed at this point?
Right, exactly. And that's what the thought is with if we're going to demo 340 and 440. There's no point in doing all kinds of rehab work or anything like that, or replacing roofs, that sort of thing, if we're gonna have a new station there. If for some reason the referendum doesn't pass, then the town will need to address the roofs. Is it going to last another year or two? Yeah, I think we can make it. I think we can make it work. But it's deteriorating the buildings by having that water enter the envelope of the building.
Okay. All right. I have a few other follow-on questions, but I see there's other counselors that have questions, so I'll hold my questions at this point. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate the answer. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Steve?
Yeah, Steve Jones, thank you, Madam Chair. Just thanks again for the really great presentation. One request I'd like to make for once the minutes are published, down the line, if we can perhaps utilize some of these as like a Q&A webpage where we place questions and answers that were provided by Deputy Chief Dojan, as well as maybe the minutes of this meeting, if it's approved to go to referendum, that it can be used as like a quick link to cover any questions that maybe weren't answered immediately in the presentations. One question that I do have, though, and this might be through the town manager, is regarding, let's just kind of reverse engineer this. We're getting this out. It goes to referendum. It passes. The issuance of debt and notes and bonding. How does that work? And I know we're not issuing it all at once. So maybe Lisa's able to help with that. I think she may have mentioned at one point something about notes versus issuance of bonds. But I think one question that's been asked is, and thought of, is what the rates would be like in terms of issuing that debt. And if we're putting it all at once, can we issue all at once with a lower interest rate?
So, Steve, I will mostly defer, but I'll just say that I know Lisa has in her debt service model has programmed in a multi-year phasing, which goes back to an earlier question of the debt. So we're not anticipating borrowing all $5 million at once. So maybe, I don't know, Lisa, do you want to answer that or pass it to Mike or to Barry?
I'll start out and I'll include both Mike and Barry because there's a couple of things that you asked that they're both involved in. First of all, our debt management plan currently has a phase-in of the project. It would be $3 million in notes the first year. So with that, we would issue notes, and rates right now are coming in around 1% on notes, or on bonds, actually. Notes would probably be even a lot less costly, and I'll have Barry talk about that in a moment. The other piece would be in the second year when we do the Morton buildings, we would issue the entire $5 million worth of debt in the second year, and that would be in bonds. What that allows us to do is to phase in the impact of the debt issuance. It allows us, if there's any grants that should come our way, the grants could potentially pay off the notes, and we would be issuing less debt, bonds, that is. And furthermore, we can't issue the entire $5 million, and this is where I'll let Mike Botello speak to that, because if you're not doing the project all at once, you really can't issue the debt until you're ready to spend it down. The IRS has certain spend down requirements that makes it not possible for us to be able to spend down and issue all that debt. Again, also, if we should happen to get grants, we wouldn't be allowed to issue all the debt anyway. So Mike, you want to just pop in on that piece for me, please?
Sure. Yeah, so Lisa's exactly right. In terms of what you're doing today is you're going to vote on sending this to referendum. The referendum vote is whether the town would be authorizing the issuance of up to $5 million in debt, whether that's in the form of bonds or notes. So it's just authorizing the issuance. It doesn't mean that you actually have to issue the full $5 million. And to the extent that you were to receive grants, Lisa's correct. You would not want to issue the debt all at once if you had applications out there for the grants, because you don't want to have a situation where you're over issuing the debt, where you actually issue the full amount and then you receive the grants. You would have to reduce the amount of debt that you issue by the grants that you receive. Okay, because if the project cost, just say that the project cost is $5 million, you're going to wait to permanently finance the project until you know whether you're going to be able to receive grants. So if in fact the project cost is $5 million and you're going to receive, say, grants in the amount of $1 million, you're only going to issue debt up to $4 million, right? Because you're going to be reducing the amount of debt that you issue based upon any grants that you receive for the project. So to the extent that you are going to be applying for grants, that's going to necessarily reduce how much you're going to issue in debt. The other point that Lisa made was the town will not issue debt unless the projects are ready to be built, okay? The IRS requires that a tax exempt issuer like the town of Tolland expend its bond proceeds or its note proceeds in a timely manner, okay? Because what the IRS does not want is for a municipality to issue its debt, hold on to the debt and invest it in other things and not spend it on the project. So that's why, depending upon how you're phasing these projects, is going to dictate how soon you are issuing the debt for those particular projects.
So Mike, I have a quick question for you then, since we're talking about that piece of it now. If if the town approves the referendum at 5 million, and we're going to be breaking this out over 2 to 3 years to build it, and do we get to lock in the 1% interest rate for the 5 million upfront? Or is it going to, like, if we get whatever the interest rate is at the time of actual issuance?
Correct. Correct. What the process is this, okay? The first process is you approve a bond resolution, which is what you have before you, okay? Clearly, you're sending it to referendum by virtue of your charter. But anyway, the first step is approving the resolution, okay? The next step is Barry, your financial advisor, and Lisa will put together a financing plan in terms of when are we going to actually issue this debt. And once again, that's going to be somewhat dictated by Chief Littell, by the advisors of the town, in terms of when you need the money for the projects, okay? Once you then kind of determine when you're going to be financing the projects, okay, then I will be involved in terms of preparing a disclosure document. That disclosure document is what is actually presented to investors when you're trying to get your rates. Okay, so that's part of the bond issue process is, and then there's going to be, it's part of the sale process. Okay, so you're actually selling your debt at that time, and then shortly thereafter, you're going to actually issue the debt. I will actually draft your bond documents. I will render a legal opinion on behalf of the town that the debt that you're issuing is tax exempt. That's kind of like a month and a half process in terms of once you're ready to go forward with issuing debt. It's kind of like a month and a half. You're going to sell your bonds. You're going to get your rate then. And then like 2 weeks later, you actually are issuing the debt. Okay. So that's when the rate will be set. It will not be set any earlier than that.
Okay, so there's no financial benefit to having it all up front, because if the rates go up 2 years down the line, when we go for the last part of the issuance, the rates go up. There's nothing we can do. Like, we're not locking in the rate now.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a benefit to the extent if rates are low now in locking it if you can, but the problem is that, remember, you've got to weigh that against what the IRS regulations provide, right? So you can't, if you're not ready to spend the money, then you're not going to issue all the debt and lock the rate. You're necessarily going to have to do it kind of in a phased approach, because you're not going to be ready to spend all that money all at once because of the as we talked about, as Chuck was talking about, in terms of phasing in the projects. Now, we all talk about the fact that rates cannot remain as historically low as they are, but we've been saying that for, and Barry and Lisa can correct me, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. I mean, rates have been low for a long time. We always say it can't continue this way, but we've been surprised each year because rates have remained low. Now, I can't speak to the rates. I would have Barry probably speak to that if he expects that rates will go up in the near future. But I mean, they've been historically low. Like, I mean, last year, Lisa, you can tell what rate did Tolland get last year? She's on mute.
Don't remember off the top of my head, but Barry probably has it.
Yeah,
It was in the ones.
Was it like 2%? I mean, I don't know. Barry, you can speak to it, but.
Oh, you seem to be muted, Barry, if you're able to check your audio. It says you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. No.
Okay, Barry, you're unmuted, but can you hear us? And okay, there's something wrong with your microphone.
Barry, do you want to call into the meeting?
I guess while we're waiting for Barry to call in, and it might be a question for him as well, just kind of going off the line of questioning regarding financing. Lisa, how many years would this be paid off over time? And is there opportunity for refinancing as we've done with other projects that might, obviously we say the rates are as low as they've ever been, but let's say they go up a little bit, we issue it, and then down the line, a future council or a future manager and finance director comes back and says, we can refinance this at a lower rate.
Currently, we go out about 20 years on the debt financing. And as far as refinancing, the federal government and IRS laws or whatever, the federal government has made it very difficult now for municipalities to refinance debt issues. I know there's legislation out there that's being discussed, but I don't think anything has been passed at this point. Mike, has anything changed regarding that? So
no, but okay, because of the new administration, there seems to be some real momentum to pass legislation that would bring back what we call advance refundings, which are basically a method to really help municipal issuers to refinance their debt. It's a very favorable mechanism. It was taken away as part of the Tax Reform Act of, was that 2019?
it was either 18 or 19.
18, it was 18, it was 18, yeah.
Yeah.
It was 18. So it was taken away, but there is a number of proposals to bring it back. You can still refund, but as Lisa meant, it's not as favorable. There's far more limitations. It's still possible, but the hope is that advanced refundings will come back.
Okay. And then one other question just on that line. I think you mentioned that, there's, if you overissue the debt and then get a grant, you'd have to reduce your issuance. Are there any penalties? And I know this project is being proposed as a multi-year process in terms of issuing it. If we issued it over the course of the time and we end up getting substantially more than we expected and we needed to reduce what we bonded or
it won't happen.
Okay.
Well,
I just want to make sure there are any penalties for that process.
Yeah. I mean, basically I won't let first of all, Lisa knows better, right? It's not going to happen. It's not like you're not going to be issuing more debt if you anticipate getting grants. I mean, worst case scenario, okay. Say I don't know anything about grants that you've applied for. And I will tell you, some of my towns, I find out that they've applied for grants and they've already issued debt. And it's not a good thing. But you can remedy it. You either just prepay your debt to the extent that you're allowed to do that under your bond documents, or there's other remedial actions that can be done. But generally speaking, you wouldn't be in a situation where you're actually be issuing more debt if you anticipate that you're going to be applying for grants. I mean, that's why we would just issue less debt. Or what you can do is you can issue notes, and then if you receive the grant proceeds, then you apply the grant to the notes. As long as you don't permanently finance it with bonds, it won't be a problem.
Okay, no, that's great. Yeah, and I definitely, that question was not to say that Lisa's years of awards are not duly earned and she would not allow that to happen. I just wanted to make sure that wasn't a process that could.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. I've been bond counsel for many, many years for Tolland. I don't think it's ever been a problem in Tolland.
Okay, that covers it.
You guys are on top of your,
yeah. Thank you. That covers it for my questions for now. I don't know if Barry, if you had anything to add, if their mic is working now, or if they're able to, their audio is working, if they had anything to contribute to some of the questions that were asked.
Yeah, can you hear me? This is Barry.
Hi, Barry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Mike covered it and Lisa covered it. I mean, just when Tolland issued bonds last year, the rate was 1.54%, so 1.5%.
I apologize. I said 2%. I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
No problem.
And I don't think we're going to get a refinance rate less than 1%. I think we're looking for a miracle if we could refinance out 1% at a lower interest rate, Lisa.
No, and today
Yeah,
Barry shared with me some a sale that happened for another town that's only a AA rated, and their low rate came in at like almost a 1.1% on about $19 million worth of bonds. So I mean, that was an excellent rate today. But I'll let Barry continue, but we have been getting some good rates out there. So I would think we could.
Right, exactly, Lisa. Even though rates have gone up a little bit, rates are still, from historic perspective, very, very low. And for the town's debt management plan, we were very conservative. We assumed rates go up a little bit, but as of rates right now, we're way below what our assumptions are for the debt management plan. And just in summary, as Lisa said earlier, what we had planned for was to do a short-term note later this year if the project passes, to give the town money to work on the fire stations, and then do one permanent bond issue in the fall of 2022. Now, is that what will happen? Nobody knows, but that's what we had incorporated into the town's debt management plan.
Best laid plans and all. I get it.
All right, and actually, sorry, I had one other question. In terms of this phased out approach and this process over the next few years of issuing the debt, does other debt fall off that kind of creates I don't say a break even, but perhaps even a net loss, if not a break even?
Well, there are other projects out there besides the fire station. In fact, the current 5-year debt management plan takes into consideration projected issuance of about $19.1 million of capital projects. And the way we've worked it out with Lisa is that there will be very minimal increases in the town's debt. To issue that $19.1 million, the town on average would have to increase your debt budget by about $50,000 each year for the next 5 years. Now you might say, well, that doesn't seem like a large increase to issue $19 million. But the main reason for that is the town's existing debt is amortizing so aggressively.
Okay, thank you. I think that covers all my questions for now. If I have any more, I'll wait for the second round.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for your questions. So basically, from what I just heard from both of you, doing it now, the staggering of the fire departments and all of that, there's really no benefit to drag it out over the 3 years for approval, because the spending is going to come as the spending comes. Lisa's shaking her head. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, what you would is just have the whole resolution done at one time. And like that puts the appropriation and the authorization in place if it passes at referendum. But we do not spend all that money at once or issue the debt for it at one time, but it gives the authorization there to move forward to allow us to continue with the project as necessary.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Everybody else, I appreciate that. Kurt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I got a question for Chuck. We've been talking a lot about roofs tonight. What do the roofs, what's going to be the roofing for the new buildings if this passes? I mean, 340 and 440 are all Morton buildings, so I'd assume that it's going to be a metal roof?
Yes, I would anticipate a metal roof, yes, and it would not be a flat roof.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. So it's going to be a pitched metal roof. What does the maintenance on that look like? I can imagine it's less than a flat roof would be, right?
Right. Well, typically flat roofs have a much shorter lifespan. A typical flat roof, if you have a commercial flat roof, it's, like a 20-year, 15-year type of lifespan warranty on that. The pitched roofs, you're looking somewhere in the 35-year lifespan.
Okay. That's very good to hear. That's all I had on that.
Thank you. Brenda.
Thank you, Brenda Flusy. Mr. Jones asked most of my questions, and I had a couple questions, mostly from residents who weren't able to be here. And I apologize because we none of us wanted to make this sound like you don't know what you're doing. We understand you do. Is there any benefit to purchasing the buildings altogether? Are we seeing any benefit from that? You know, buying in bulk, so to speak. The other one was, is there any possibility of having enough space on these lands to put in a building next to an existing one that still might be able to be used for storage? I'm sure you guys have probably already thought about that, but if you have, just, you know, a little bit of an explanation on that, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So the first question, wait, can you, it was kind of garbled there.
Yeah, sorry about that. So we're purchasing multiple Morton buildings here. So are we getting a discount basically from the manufacturer for buying more than one building?
So, well, with the thought on 340 and 440, they're going to be essentially the exact same building. So if you only build, say, one of them now, and then we go out for another referendum later and do the second one, you're not guaranteed that you're going to have the same manufacturer, that sort of thing. So you may be paying for the design twice. You know, so the pre-engineered metal buildings, you know, they have essentially set designs. They have their own engineering that goes into them. So, you know, with different manufacturers, obviously you would have a different design. The other area that you would save is in the general contracting, the general mobilization, all this sort of thing. You know, you're doing one project instead of two projects. So that in and of itself is going to end up saving some money. So there are some cost savings there with doing everything together. Your second question with putting the buildings next to each other, we haven't done the site designs for these yet, because obviously we don't want to spend money until we know that the referendum is going to pass. So that's kind of, I guess, where I'll leave that. But there's a bunch of different options out there, and you know, until we kind of get the green light on this thing, we're kind of at where we're at, I guess.
Yes. Okay, great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
Oh, did you say my name? You were muted, Chairman Nuccio. Did you say?
Sorry, my dog was barking. I'm trying to mute it. Steve,
Oh, okay.
sorry.
No worries. And I also didn't want to go ahead if you wanted to go.
No,
forward with
go ahead.
questions, if this is okay for a second round. Okay. So yeah, I just want to make sure I heard clearly. I had to step away for a moment. So if we did two separate projects for the fire stations, there would be potential cost savings lost from that. If that was correct, Mr. Eaton, I think you were explaining to Councilor Felucci.
Right. And one other thing I just thought of is that, you know, everyone keeps saying Morton building. Morton building is a specific pre-manufactured building, just like, you know, when you say Kleenex instead of tissue, you know, it's a specific thing as opposed to the generic term for it. So if we're going to build twin buildings and you want them to look the same, have the same type of materials, all this sort of thing, you're better off building them together, because you're not going to be guaranteed in a public bidding process that you're going to have the same manufacturer.
Okay, and then does that also apply to the raw materials to have those items manufactured? Do we have to take into consideration if we spread out the projects at all? You know, the price of, you know, steel or whatever raw materials might fluctuate. It's, you know, obviously very high right now, and with all the trade issues that were going on for several years between, I think, Asia and the U.S. and Canada and the U.S., that there were some issues with that. So I guess the question is, down the road, you know, when we issue this debt, if prices of materials or raw goods go down, does that also help impact the overall cost of the project, or is it kind of a preset contract?
It would be a preset contract. So similar to the bonding rates, are building materials going to go down in the next 2 years, or are they going to continue to go up? You're kind of rolling the dice as far as what's going to happen with that. But essentially, if you do all of these buildings under the same contract, you would be locking in that price for, if it takes 3 years to get everything completed, you'd be locking it in for that period.
Okay. And then, sorry, one final question. Just, is it still built into the proposal, the 20% contingency, if I'm correct? And what does that cover again, just to refresh my memory?
Well, the contingency is things that we're unaware of at this time. We don't have a hard design yet. So, essentially we're working off of a space program to be able to put these numbers together. We don't want to spend the money to go into great detail until the town approves the project. So the contingency is also there for things like, I know Chief Lytle is concerned about, say, soils and things like that. So it's anything that is unforeseen during the project.
Okay, so fingers crossed then, if we didn't have any issues and everything went swimmingly, which I know hasn't been a good history with some projects in Tolland, but we could possibly save $1 million off the $5 million we're bonding if we don't have to use any of our contingency that we're budgeting into this $5 million bond authorization. Which I know I'm crossing my fingers very tight. I could probably break them, but
there's always stuff that comes up.
Okay.
Steve, I added it up. It's about 700,000. There's also some money built in there for design costs, but if you add up the 3 contingency buckets, it's about 700,000.
Okay. Thank you. That covers it for me for now. Thanks.
Anybody else? No? Okay, then, let's see. Where's the resolution? You have the resolution, right, Steve?
I'm sorry, do we have to close the
You're on
public
mute.
hearing first?
Sorry, I'm unmuting now. Let me pull up that resolution one quick moment. It's pretty far down here.
It looks like it's on page. I just had it. 60. 46. 46 to 73. Page 46 in the packet.
73-page agenda.
You said 46, correct? Okay, here we go. I just found it. So thank you. So are we all set? Do we need to technically close the public hearing, or do we close that through the comment and now we can move forward with the motion?
We already closed the public comment and everybody just spoke.
Yeah, okay.
So,
all right, so Steve Jones, I'd make a motion that be it resolved by the Tolland Town Council that it hereby approves as follows. Resolution authorizing an appropriation of $5 million for the Firehouse Improvement Project and the financing of said appropriation by the issuance of general obligation bonds of the town and notes in anticipation of such bonds in the amount not to exceed $5 million or so much as may be necessary after deducting grants thereof, as well as establishing a date for a referendum on May 4th, 2021. A copy of the full text of the resolution is recorded following these minutes, approved by the Tolland Town Council on March 23rd, 2021.
Lulu Ball, second.
okay, is there any discussion on the resolution? No, all right, all those in favor, Brenda,
Enthusiastic, yes.
Cassandra,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Lou,
Aye.
Kurt,
Aye.
I'm an aye, I am a yes, so that is unanimous. All right, we move forward with putting that on the referendum. All right, that gets us to 7A, reports of boards and committees responsible to the council. We have Katie here tonight to report on Birch Grove.
Yes, Katie Murray, I'm chair of the Birch Grove Building Committee. The project is running on time and on budget.
Perfect. Does anybody have any questions for Katie?
Not
Steve?
a question, just a comment. Just thank you for the tours that you helped provide for the various boards and commissions the past few weeks. It was great to see it in the process and see how things are moving along, and glad it's on time, on budget, and everyone's in good spirits there.
Thank you. Brenda?
Thank you. Brenda Flusy, I just want to pass on my appreciation to you, the entire building committee, and everyone who's worked on this project for the unbelievable amount of work you guys have done. It is so heartwarming to see this building come up. I am so sorry I was in quarantine and wasn't able to do a tour, but such is life right now, right? But again, please pass on my thanks to everybody for everything that you have done for the community. Your sacrifice, Katie, for what you've done and all the personal time you've taken to ensure that this school is ready for our kids and ready for our community is not going unnoticed. It's really appreciated. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, thank you, Katie. Brenda, do you have anything?
So for Sustainable CT, I don't have any update at the moment. For the Central Region Tourism Commission, I'm creating a cultural brochure for the region, which includes walking areas like, gardens, things like that, museums, and historical houses. So we know that means that our Tolland historical houses will be listed in this brochure. So we're looking to get that done in the next 3 weeks. And that is it for them.
Perfect. All right. That gets us to 7B, reports of town council liaisons.
Cool. So I'll keep going.
Keep going.
All right. So Blight Committee was canceled for this week. Land acquisition has not had a meeting. And planning and zoning. Hold on, let me pull it up because I want to get these right. There was a lot of changes to this. I'm really excited to see that planning and zoning is having some discussions concerning drive-throughs. So one applicant is asking for drive-through services at gasoline stations / convenience stores in the Gateway Design District. That would be by special permit. So if a gas station were to go into the Gateway Design District and they wanted to have a QSR, a quick serve restaurant, as part of their business, then they would apply with a special permit, and the planning and zoning would come up with a decision on that. They also have coming up in May an application for the Tolland Village area to have a drive-through service window. Most of you know that that is the Dunkin' Donuts. And there's a number of other public hearings that are coming up. Let's see. But, those were, I think, the 2 biggest ones. We also, last night, they decided to allow a subdivision of a residential lot that was over 22 acres to include a 2-acre lot so that another house can go on it, and they're going to have a shared driveway so there's not another cut through. And that was really nice to be able to see us helping residents, come up with housing solutions for themselves, for their family. I think it's a great addition to and a great benefit for that family. And that's pretty much it for planning and zoning. Oh, and I guess the new planner is starting next week. Is that correct, Mr. Rosen?
Yes, Monday. That's right. David Corcoran. David
Can't
Corcoran.
wait to meet him.
Yeah, and I just want to say that the last couple meetings that we had our temporary planner in, he did an excellent professional job with the meetings. He was very easily able to answer everybody's questions and ran the meeting very professionally. And the same goes for the meeting that Andrea was able to oversee and participate in. So just pass on my thanks to them for, for great meetings.
Thank you. Cassandra?
I wasn't, no PCC this week.
No PCC this week. Okay. Ooh, something crazy happened on my screen. Steve?
Yeah, Steve Jones. So on the 11th, the Conservation Commission met. I was unable to attend because we had a budget meeting, but I'll just do a quick summary of their minutes. They're updating their geocaching policies. They're looking to send out some either postcards or first class letters to conservation abutters to make them aware of the area. They passed a motion, or they passed a resolution to create a nonprofit group to manage online contributions so they can do more active fundraising, which, by the way, speaking of fundraising, they have a Star Party event, I believe, on the actually coming up. I'll have to double check the date, raising money for the Wannet area as well as the Conservation Commission in general. And I think that covers it for that meeting. The Water Commission met on the 15th. The unusual usage and usage issues, I don't know if Bev's on. She might provide better information if she is, and if not, can circle back with her. But they are saying the leakages that they're finding are more substantial than initially reported, and there is concern that it's impacting some of the infrastructure if it's not located. So they're looking to work more aggressively with CWC to figure out strategies to find the source of that leakage, as well as possibly working with public safety about if there's any leak issues on their fire pumps and fire hydrants. But otherwise, they are still performing very, very well due to COVID for financials, due to everyone being home and utilizing their water systems locally. So that covers it for me. There will be a meeting for conservation on Thursday. So that's about it.
Thank you. John, do you have anything?
Yes, I do. Thank you. March 16th, the WPCA did meet. Repairs were made on one of the pump stations, so now everything is running well. Public Works Director Lappin initiated a discussion about the water fees and recommended, this is the third year in a row, they're not going to be raising the water fees. They also recommended keeping their budget flat. So after a budget discussion, that recommendation was unanimously approved. Then there was discussion around Dunkin' Donuts looking to connect to the sewer. And a rep from Gardner and Peterson was there. He talked about the drive-through and the tie into the sewer. They need to abandon their septic, and he described that project. PZC has approved the drive-through. Now they're doing the site plan process. We also got an update on 12 Shinipsit Lake Road. That project is complete and paid. And College View, there's no news. There's no work going on up there. And that was the extent of the meeting. That's all I have. Thank you.
Kind of a bummer about College View. Hopefully they can get moving on that again. Lou.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Murray covered my issues regarding bird probes, so I'm all set. Thank
you. Kurt.
I have nothing to report, so that's easy.
And I didn't have any, I'm sorry, excuse me 1 second. My dog is freaking out again.
If you want, so Chair Minucci, I'll just add in regarding, I think, Councilor Regan's comments. I believe at the Water Commission, I'd have to circle back with them, but I believe they said that someone that they had as a contractor was let go and they've hired someone new. So there is some movement being taken place there. So hopefully that starts to move more fluidly.
Thank you.
Pun intended.
Thank you. I did not have any meetings from last time to this time, so I have nothing to update right now. Let's see, that gets us to new business 8.1, appointments to vacancies on various municipal boards and commissions.
We did have one that came in at the last second, so let me just verbally tell you all that there was a bit of an oversight, and Daniel Tortolati, who's on the Water Commission, his term actually expired on January 31st, and we just need to correct that and reappoint for a 4-year term on the Water Commission for a term that would go from 1/31/21 to 1/31/25. So we just need a motion to reappoint Daniel.
All right, Steve Jones, I'd make that motion to reappoint Dan Tortolat for, it was 1/31/21 to 1/31/25.
Yep, 4-year term.
Okay.
Brenda Felucci, I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Brenda?
Aye.
Cassandra?
Aye, sorry, I was trying to get my thumb before I could get the mute.
That's okay. Steve,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Lou,
Aye.
Kurt,
Aye.
and I'm an aye also. So that is unanimous. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Hands up.
there was we had
Lou,
one other applicant. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, you were breaking up a little bit. Try again.
How's better?
I think so. Go ahead.
That there was also an applicant for one of the open permanent planning commission positions, which I don't think has made this agenda. So if we can possibly review that for next agenda.
Did that not get, I don't, I'll talk to Mike about it. Yeah, I don't know if it went through the,
Lou, which board was it? The PCC or the PZC? I didn't hear you.
PCC, Permanent Celebration Commission. But I mean, that's something that I believe Stephen, Mr. Jones and I could discuss as well, but since I don't think we've actually had a chance to touch base on that.
Yeah, I
on
think
that
we attend the meeting
action.
last week, right? Just to clarify, I think there was the PCC meeting on the 18th, unless they got canceled. I don't know if that was or not.
All right, I'll follow up with the applicant. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No worries.
that's okay. Anything else? All right, that's gonna move us. We have no old business. Report of the town manager.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Mike Rosen, Town Manager. Couple of updates this week. Obviously, we're on the tail end of the budget process, which, as you know, we're moving forward with at this point. The next step is the April 19th public presentation, the annual budget presentation. Which the good news is that we can arrange to have that using the Zoom platform. So we will be setting that up for April 19th. Generally, if Ms. Nuccio, you remember last year, the chairperson generally presents that presentation to the public.
Happens to be on my husband's birthday, by the way.
Oh, so we didn't do it quickly then. I don't know. We have 2 new staff people starting on March 29th. We're very excited about David Corcoran, the new planning director, and also Adrian Ernest, who's going to be the new executive assistant in the town manager's office, replacing Kim, who's now the new senior center director. So we want to wish them well. And we also want to wish Kathy Pagan well. She is the new town clerk. After a full search, Kathy was our best candidate for the role of town clerk. She's currently an assistant in the town clerk's office, and I believe March 29th is her official first day as the town's new town clerk. So we will have to go out and post her position now, but we want to congratulate her on her promotion. Also on March 29th will be a joint meeting of the council and the Mental Health and Substance Use Advisory Task Force. It's the first meeting. And since it's the first meeting, we do it as a joint meeting with council. So council can show the task force the ropes and tell them how public meetings work and things like that. So that's at 7 o'clock on March 29th. The Zoom link, I believe, went out already to everybody. And just lastly, I had a chance to see Kim Kowalshin, our senior center director, yesterday, and she wanted me to advertise tonight that she's actually got a safely done drive-through event to say hello to the new director, although she's been the director for a few months now. But she's asking that people register it's a drive-through event at the senior center, and people can either register by calling Kim at 860-870-3730 or by emailing her, and her email address is on the town website. It's her first initial last name, Kim Kowalshin @Tolland.org. So you register, and then when the drive-through event, people will be wearing their masks and staying in their cars. But the event is going to be taking place on Thursday, April 8th, 2021, beginning at 10 a.m. And it's at the senior center. And it actually goes by what initial your last name starts with. So depending on what your initial is, that's the time that you're supposed to report. But that could all be indicated if you call Kim or email her and make an appointment. Again, it's on April 8th. So keep an eye out for that. And we look forward to having that event so people get to see Kim and put a face to a name and welcome her to her new role. So lots of good things going on, and that's all I had for tonight. Mostly our office has been focusing on budget, as you can imagine. Thank you.
You stole all my thunder. It's okay though. Adoption of minutes. Steve, you're gonna be busy here,
Well,
unless
I was-
anybody has any changes to any of that. maybe we can-
Yeah, I was going to preface making any motion by asking if there are any counselors that have any standalone issues with any particular item. Otherwise, I would like to group them all as one motion. All right,
I
seeing
don't have any
nobody
objection.
jumping at it. Steve Jones, I'd make a motion to adopt the minutes as laid out in 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, 11.4, 11.5, and 11.6.
Cassandra Forsythe, I'll second that motion, Steve.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All those in favor, Brenda,
Aye.
Cassandra,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Lou? Lou looks frozen.
Aye.
Oh, there
Aye.
he is. Kurt?
Aye.
I'm an aye, so that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Correspondence to council.
Hi,
Excuse me,
Brenda
Madam
Felice.
Chair.
Yes,
I'm sorry. Unless you have any further engineering questions, I'm going to sign off.
I appreciate you signing on tonight, Chuck. Thank you very much
No,
for all of your
no
help.
problem.
Have a good
All right.
evening.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you. Correspondence to council, Brenda.
I summed these up. We received 9 emails from residents requesting that the proposed Board of Ed / Superintendent's proposed budget go through as proposed. And we received 12 emails in full support of the Tolland Fire Department's projects that are going on. We also received from one resident 3 different emails about one about glyphosates, one about heat pumps, and one about global warming. Let me just do a quick scan. That looks like it was, oh, we did have one email that from a resident that had some questions about the Tolland Fire Department project, and those questions were answered via email to the resident by a member of the Tolland Fire Department. And that is it.
Thank you very much. Gets the chairperson's report. So Mike stole pretty much all my thunder. And if you could please, look at this, see, I see that face. We're getting good at this. If you could please welcome everybody for us, I would appreciate that. It was nice seeing Kim yesterday. And I just wanted to let everybody know that chair hours are next Thursday from 6:30 to 7:30, I believe. Let's see, yeah, 6:30 to 7:30 as it stands right now, but it's April Fool's Day, so we'll see. Communications and petitions from council persons. Steve.
Just a quick one, and I don't know if there's any real controversy to it, but we have the difference between 2 minutes and 3 minutes for public participation at the beginning and the end. I'm wondering if there's any objection to possibly changing that format, or if we have to go through any particular process just to make it 3 minutes on each side. I think when people were talking at the beginning, they may have been confusing, so they thought they had 3 minutes when it was actually 2. And I figure we're already running long meetings on Zoom. We might as well just have it be a uniform 3 minutes for both start and end.
I think it's in our rules of procedure that way. It's set up that way at the beginning. So we would have to bring it up and vote on it to see if everybody wanted to extend it to change those for the remainder of this time. But
Not a high priority. It just seems like it makes sense to have them both be the same amount of time just to avoid any confusion.
Okay, I will take a look at that. I'll see.
But other than that, I have no other petitions at this point.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Public listed participation on any subject within the jurisdiction of the town council with a 3-minute limit. If you're on a device, there's a raise hand option. When you raise your hand and I call on you, you need to state your name and address for the record. If you are on a phone, it is *9. Same thing applies. When called on, you need to state your name and address for the record. Okay, I'm not seeing any. I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
All right, Steve Jones, I make a motion to adjourn at 9:20 p.m.
Brenda Felice, I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, Brenda,
Aye.
Cassandra,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Lou,
Aye.
Kurt.
Aye.
I'm an aye. It is unanimous. Everybody have a good evening.
You too. Take care. Have a good night.